was a little shelf for the tower.
You were cool.
I did, and I had a little pull-out drawer for the keyboard.
Yeah.
Like I thought I was in IT or something.
I'm one of those too. I think it's still cool. No, but see, we don't really.
I don't even use the laptop.
Yeah, but
really, it's just all on the phone now.
Yeah,
or video editing, everything like that. It's crazy.
That's the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. But you've got a really old iPad, haven't you? Did you ever upgrade that?
Oh no, but you don't want to upgrade it because then nothing works. Then, if you hit update, the fear of God's in you, it's not going to work.
All right, come here. See you tomorrow.
Have a good show.
All right, you two have a great day, Lee. That's Lee Gooch there, back with you tomorrow morning at 6:30, of course. The 9 till noon show just around the corner. Let's get a news update first and say good morning now to Michaela Clark.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. Plans for a cinema in Donegal Town have been dashed yet again. It's believed the site, which was earmarked for the development, has been sold to a major supermarket chain. Planning permission for the 2-storey, 5-screen cinema was granted in November 2019. Mayor of Donegal Town, Pádraig Kennedy, says once again the people of Donegal Town have been let down.
It's just sad to think that the whole community came together with the help of Donegal County Council and all. They got together and the planning was approved and everything was looking like it was good to go. And then unfortunately the word now is that the site is sold and that we can't get in contact with the developer to see is it definite or true. It seems to be common knowledge that it is sold, and yet again the people of Donegal Town are let down.
A Donegal deputy has told the Dáil that government has the choice to sit back and do nothing or be proactive in introducing a mortgage interest relief. Deputy Pearse Doherty was speaking as he brought forward a motion calling for the reintroduction of a mortgage relief of up to €1,500. He highlighted the case of one homeowner whose mortgage repayments have increased by €523 a month. He says people are crying out for support.
The question we must ask now as we debate this motion, as borrowers are facing spiralling mortgage payment, is whether we should stand back and do nothing or whether we are to be proactive and do something. And so many have said in recent times, we cannot let the perfect be the enemy of the good. So it is clear to me and it is clear to Sinn Féin that households facing spiralling mortgage costs in the midst of a cost of living crisis need support.
A man is due to appear in court this morning, charged in connection with a serious assault in Glencombe Kill on Sunday night. A man in his 20s was set upon outside a licensed premises in the Cashel area shortly after 9:30pm. He was taken to Letterkenny University Hospital for treatment to serious injuries sustained. The man charged, aged in his 20s also, is due to appear before Glenties District Court. The government is being urged not to let emotion get in the way of providing proper health care for women. The independent review of Ireland's abortion legislation, carried out by barrister Marie O'Shea, is being published today. It's expected to make 10 recommendations, including removing the mandatory 3-day wait period before a termination. Taoiseach Léir Bradker last week stated that he'd be uncomfortable about making any major changes to the law. Sinead Kennedy from Action for Choice says personal opinions should not play a part.
We didn't actually vote on legislation. We voted to repeal the 8th Amendment and to allow for provision for abortion services to be made in law by our legislature. And quite frankly, this is not actually about the Taoiseach's comfort or discomfort. This should be about providing the highest standard of healthcare for women in this country.
Weather now, some sunny spells this morning, becoming mostly cloudy with limited sunny spells for the rest of the day and highest temperatures of 9 to 14 degrees. That's all from Highland Radio News for now. We'll be back with news again at 10 o'clock. Until then, good morning.
On Pusk Money Mate is a current account that gives kids the power. So what money power do they want? The power to get paid for their chores? Come on, nearly there, Connor.
Oh, it's so unfair.
Relax, your mum's paying you with jobs on the app. Or to be a super saver with savings jars.
Hold on, can I have the power to keep an eye on all of this?
You can, with the current account for kids that's just €2 per month, plus your first 3 months free. Search On Pusk Money Mate or get the On Pusk Money app. T's and C's apply. See onpuskmoney.com/moneymate. Available for children aged 7 to 15 and a half years. Transaction fees apply. After 3 months, a monthly fee applies. On Pusk is authorised by the Minister for Finance to provide payment services and is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland in the provision of such services.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio. And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest, The 9 till Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9 on this Wednesday, the 26th of April 2023. How are you keeping? I do hope you are very well, and I mean that genuinely, wherever you're listening to us across the Northwest, across the world. We want your views and input into the programme. 07491 25,000. That's the number to call Caroline on. If you're outside the Republic, 00353 7491 25,000. We've been contacted by quite a number of you, as we always are over the last couple of days, chasing up issues on your behalf, making inquiries and so on and so forth. We'll give you updates on that stuff as the morning progresses. WhatsApps and texts come into us, of course, on 086 60 25,000, 086 60 25,000, and your emails from anywhere in the world, comments at highlandradio.com. And just to remind you once again, you can watch the programme on our YouTube channel, Highland Radio Ireland. Like and subscribe if you don't mind, or across our Facebook pages, or directly in your browser on our website. If something piques your interest and you fancy seeing it instead of listening it, you can just click in to watch live, and lo and behold, there you are, through the wonders of modern technology. The Donegal Post reports this morning that hopes of a cinema for Donegal Town have been dashed following reports that the proposed site has been sold to Lidl. You might know, if you approach Donegal Town from the Ballabafay end and you hit that roundabout, Lidl is off the second exit into your left. The site for the cinema was behind that. It appears Lidl has acquired that now. Mayor of Donegal Town, Pádraig Kennedy, is bitterly disappointed by the news. He's one of the people who strongly supported local woman Yvonne Callaghan, a number of others who fought a tough campaign. They lobbied tirelessly for the necessary speed limit rezoning and other factors that would have allowed planning permission to be granted. You might remember we discussed it quite extensively on this programme. We always seem to get so far with these types of plans, and then here we are again with nothing, said Mr Kennedy. We have been promised a cinema, a new library, a swimming pool, and all we have is more broken promises, disappointments there. The Finn Valley Voice this morning, Finn Harps Football Club have joined a national campaign to ship pre-loved sports shoes from Irish families to townships' children in South Africa. The In My Shoes campaign is working with schools, sports clubs and families to collect several thousands of no longer needed boots for shipping to the needy townships. Appeal co-founder and managing director Kieran McHugh said shoes are more than just foot protection in an African township. They can be the difference between a hopeful or bleak future. Okay, fair play to everyone involved there. The Irish Times this morning tells us that a planning application for a greenway between Buncrana and Carndonagh could be submitted as early as 2025. The project to link the two towns, which is estimated to cost around 20 million. It'll probably be 200 million by the time we get there. But anyway, the project to link the two towns, which is estimated to cost around 20 million, is to form part of the proposed Inishowen Greenway, an approximately 120 kilometre loop around the peninsula. On to the Irish Times this morning. The top of the page, a very striking one. They have pictures of the 48 people who died during... Well, I'll read the article rather than trying to paraphrase it. After more than 4 decades of battling, the families of the 48 dared to hope yesterday that the beginning of the end of their fight for the truth had come. The long-awaited inquests into the deaths of their young loved ones, some of them children, at the Stardust nightclub in Artane, Dublin in the early hours of February 14th, 1981, got underway amid scenes of raw emotion, and all of the victims pictured, as I say, at the top of the paper here. Hopefully this provides answers or a platform for people to move forward, but very sadly it's taken so long. There are those, and chief among them, people who drove the campaign to get to this point, who passed away before seeing it actually happening. Terribly sad altogether. Elsewhere in the front of that paper, the Fianna Fáil junior minister Niall Collins is facing calls to answer questions in the Dáil about his wife's purchase of property from Limerick County Council in 2008 amid increasing government nervousness about the controversy as opposition TDs insist he had breached the law. Mr Collins was part of a local area committee of the council that recommended disposal of the property in 2007 when he was a member of the local authority after an open market process that concluded after he had ceased to be a member of the authority. The property was bought by his wife, who had previously approached the council about selling it prior to him leaving the council. And Mr Collins had been sharply criticised for his apparent failure to declare his wife's interests in buying the property or recuse himself, in other words, step out from the meeting from the local committee's recommendation. The allegations were first reported in the Ditch website, as we've referenced a number of times over the last week, an investigative news website. But he says he'll make a statement. He's done that before. He doesn't want questions and answers. And Leo Varadkar has jumped to his defence, saying that the Dáil is not a kangaroo court. But I think if there are very legitimate questions coming from numerous quarters, and if you've got nothing to hide, the questions are really quite simple. There's only a couple of them. You answer the questions, don't you? And then you draw a line under it and you move on. That would be the logical thing to do. Why anyone would not want to do that, I can't understand. Maybe you can. 086 60 25,000. But if it's there's a couple of simple timelines, a couple of simple things that need to be clarified, he answers those questions. Maybe they might be contained within his statement, and that puts it to bed. We have to wait and see what the statement is. The Irish Independent has bad news for some families out there. Borrowers are facing 3 more interest rate hikes as the European Central Bank's expected to keep the pressure on. Another 3 ECB rate rises mean the typical tracker mortgage holder will have seen annual repayment shoot up by more than 2,500 since last summer. Tomorrow week, the ECB is expected to announce a 7th rate rise with a hike of 0.5% points possible. And 2 more increases after that could see ECB rates hit 4.5% by July from 3.5% at present. This according to analyst Justin Doyle at specialist bank Investec. Typical tracker interest rates have spiralled from just 1.15% in June last year to a 4.65 average at present. Now, there are those with certain types of companies that are paying way and above the 4.65 already. But reading on here, more hikes will also push up the cost of new fixed rates with more pressure on variables likely. Raising fixed rates will make it more difficult for first-time buyers to afford a home. We already know the challenges faced therein. Is it even possible now for average people to buy buy or build? Maybe it is. I don't know. It doesn't feel like that is to me. When you think of when I built my house, when you look at the mortgage versus my income, it was, what would it have been, 4 or 5 times? Something like that there. And people make this comparison but don't factor in this inflationary element to it. So I can't remember what the exact figures were, but it probably would have been 4 times. Maybe 5 times, certainly 4 times what I told the bank, maybe 5 times in reality, if the truth be told. It was a long time ago, what the cost of the build was versus my annual income. Now it's many multiples of it, probably 10 times if you're lucky, maybe 8, 9, 10 times. And that's why it's so difficult now compared to when people of my age were trying to get on the property market. It was doable then. It's not, I don't think, really doable now. That being said, there are those with more knowledge of interest rates and what have you than I have that suggest that they might fall back. They'll never fall back, it seems, to where they were because they were artificially low, but they will fall back. So maybe people might choose to still sit on the variable. I don't know. Not everyone can switch to a fixed rate either, or it's not attractive for them to do so. On to any insight into that yourselves, please. 07491 25,000. Give Caroline a call. On to the Irish Daily Mail now. And Cabinet has approved referring the recommendations on how to change Ireland's abortion services to the Oireachtas Health Committee. Health Minister Stephen Donnelly received his ministerial colleagues' approval to refer the legislative proposals from the termination of pregnancy report to the committee and the operational proposals to the HSE's implementation group. Speaking to the media yesterday, Tánaiste and Fianna Fáil leader Micheál Martin said that the government had referred the report to the Oireachtas Committee, which which would discuss the legislative proposals. Calling it an important report on his way into Cabinet, Mr Donnelly said, "It's certainly going to help me in the department and the HSE improve services for women right across the country." The review, led by barrister Marie O'Shea, assessed the extent to which the new law's objectives have or have not been achieved and to make recommendations to address any barriers it found. Taoiseach Leo Varadkar indicated last week that he would be reluctant to make any major changes to the laws. He said, "When I went out and others went out to look for a yes vote, we said that there would be safeguards, and that included things like the waiting period, included things like the protection of conscientious objections. Abortion laws, liberalised following a 56% vote in favour in 2018 referendum, have been the subject of a review as part of legislation introduced in the wake of that vote. At the moment, only 11 of Ireland's 19 maternity hospitals and units are providing full abortion services as legislated for. The report will be published in full today, and there's lots of different talk about getting rid of the 3-day rule, which they say is an unnecessary barrier. Some suggest that's the case. That wasn't actually in the draft legislation, funny enough. That was introduced or added in afterwards. And also, I think some suggestions that, and this perhaps talks to the conscientious objection element of it, some talk of positively discriminating against in the hiring of pro-choice consultants in certain areas as well. So we'll see how that plays out. The Sun this morning, Taoiseach Leo Varadkar claims his housing plan is working despite the need for a new €1 billion package of top-up measures in a desperate bid to ramp up house building. The Coalition's Housing for All strategy has yet to make a significant impact on the accommodation crisis. Instead, the number of people who are homeless is on the rise, and there's a $1 billion underspend in the Department of Housing. Housing Minister Darren O'Brien, yesterday got approval to splash his $1 billion on 3 new additions to the Housing for All plan. Development levies that builders usually pay to councils have been suspended for the next 12 months. Now, what I find interesting in that is presumably the government then is going to use some of the money that they have that they can't seemingly spend without coming up with these ideas to give to councils, because that is going to leave a shortfall in council funds, presumably for very important spending. So is it a case of just suspending these levies or effectively paying them for the builders to the councils? I think that's an important piece of clarification for me anyway. This could save, on average, €12,650 per home and will cost the state around $308 million. So obviously, by those figures, they are presumably going to match that. Does anyone actually think, though, that building a house will become €12,650 cheaper? Or do you think contractors, builders will end up with an extra €12,650 in their pocket, but you know what, we'll build the house? I don't know. It's hoped this will convince developers to start construction on projects that already have planning permission. So what are they doing? Like sitting twiddling the thumbs? I've nothing against, by the way, construction contractors or major big developers, right? Because I don't know enough to have anything against them. But what are they doing at the moment? Sitting twiddling their thumbs, not building anything, waiting for the government to put their hands in our pockets? I don't know. Well, the government also agreed to increase grants for people who are refurbishing a vacant property from 30 up to 50 grand and a derelict property from 50 up to 70,000. The third pillar is a new €750 million scheme that will kick off in July and will see the state give developers substantial subsidies to build apartment blocks that already have planning permission. So €750,000 of your money going into the pockets of developers to actually start building houses they'll make money anyway. Okay, well anyway, as I say, I don't understand enough about it, but something stinks. The Irish Daily Mirror, the first Barbie doll with Down syndrome is on sale. Makers Mattel consulted with model Ellie Goldstein and the UK's National Down Syndrome Society on the design of the toy. Ellie, who's 21, said, "People need to see more people like me out there in the world." The new Barbie, available for pre-order from today, has a shorter frame and longer torso. Her face is rounder, her ears smaller, and she has almond-shaped eyes. After NDSS guidance, 3 chevrons on the doll's necklace represents 3 copies of the 21st chromosome instead of the usual 2, which causes the characteristics associated with Down. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Some of these papers now are printed on, it's almost like grey paper. The paper looks grey and the writing is almost grey. It would be very uncomfortable for me to read a newspaper now if I was inclined to, and I don't particularly need glasses. But anyway, Carol Boyes, Chief Executive of the UK Down Syndrome Association, who welcomed the doll, said, "We often hear from families who feel their children are not represented enough." Lisa McKnight of Mattel said, "Our goal is to enable all children to see themselves in Barbie." The doll is part of Mattel's Fashionistas line, Barbies with diverse skin tones, body types and disabilities. Now, as you can imagine, there are those who believe this is incredibly woke. Not necessarily the doll with Down syndrome, but having dolls of different races and different body shapes and what have you. Have you any particular views on this out there? Do you welcome it? 08660 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text. RTE's Irish Eurovision bid was rocked last night by a row over transgender rights. Ireland's entry to next month's Songfest, Wild Youth, cut ties with the creative director in charge of their performance over online comments allegedly made by him. He tweeted them, for crying out loud. The band, consisting of, this is the problem with Ireland's laws in this country in terms of, and people wondered why certain stories aren't being published. You literally can't say anything on the radio or in a newspaper anymore unless you are absolutely 155% certain. And maybe this is a good thing because it's so easy for someone to make a complaint. And then you get tied up in legal stuff for months, years on end, and so on and so forth. But anyway, he made the allegations of the comments on Twitter because I saw them. But the group has parted ways with the creative director Ian Bannum just weeks before the semi-finals on May 9th, saying they do not want the choreographer near our team or Eurovision journey. A spokesperson for RTE also said Ian Bannum is no longer a member of the Ireland's Eurovision 2023 team. RTE won't be making any further comment, they say. The row has erupted after a series of Bannum's posts on transgender rights were highlighted by a social media watchdog group. Wild Youth singer Connor told fans he felt sick reading Bannum's online views relating to the issue. The online remarks range all the way to last year at least, and were discovered by the ESC Discord Twitter account, which describes itself as a Eurovision media outlet. In one, Bannum posted underneath a BBC News story about a trans woman convicted of attacking someone with a knife. He wrote, "It's a man. This clown world is ridiculous." In another, Bannum responded to a post by a trans person saying, "It's not a woman." Connor said, "First off, I want to apologise with my whole heart to anyone who has been hurt or even had to read such horrible tweets," he said. Now, Ian Bannum perhaps is guilty of saying perhaps what a lot of people are saying quietly. He said it out loud. So I don't know. He's going to hurt people with his comments, and Wild Youth in their song really is about acceptance, I suppose. So his comments, his views do not align with the band's. And he's out. He's out of that whole process. OK, back with our first guest shortly.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra Mountaintop Letterkenny, the C-Store National Large Forecourt of the Year for 2022.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Finn Harps have 2 home games this weekend as they look to build on their recent good form. Come out and get behind Dave Rogers' exciting young side at Finn Park as they face Longford on Friday and Athlone Town on Monday. That's Finn Harps versus Longford this Friday at 8 and then against Athlone Town on Bank Holiday Monday also at 8. Tickets for both matches on finnharps.ie or outside the ground before kick-off. This ad is kindly supported by Highland Bakery, your number 1 local bakery.
Vital for success. What do you think, Neil?
Yes? Fed up with missing those vital moments in your meetings? National Broadband Ireland is delivering our high-speed fibre broadband network to homes, schools and businesses across Ireland, so you can work from home with a reliable, consistent connection wherever you are in the country. Check out our list of broadband providers at nbi.ie.
Do you have any thoughts?
Blue? NBI, building a limitless Ireland, supported by the Government of Ireland.
Hi.
Hi, Bridgeen here from McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles, Buncrana. It's the last few days of our massive marquee tile sale. Huge discounts on all wall and floor tiles and much more. Grab yourself a bargain at McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles, Buncrana. Massive marquee sale now on.
Our wide range of 2023 Skodas are going fast. This is the sound of the Breen family getting their powerful diesel Kodiaq. And this is fully charged Fiona, driving away in her electric Skoda Enyaq. And this is the sound of someone who didn't place their order in time. Order your 2023 Skoda today, before it's too late. Skoda, made for Ireland.
Your local Skoda dealer is DMG Motors, Clare Road, Donegal Town. Telephone 074 9721 396 or visit dmgmotors.ie.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
Okay, 24 minutes past 9, just about to turn 25 minutes past 9. John Keane is the president of Macra na Firma, and they have organised the Steps for Our Future demonstration. Protesters have walked through the night to arrive at government buildings at 1 o'clock later today. It's a 14-hour walk from Athy. Thank you very much for joining us, John.
Thank you very much, Greg. A pleasure, and good morning to all your listeners.
Are you on the walk currently, John?
As we speak, Greg, we're just after passing kilometre number 60, so apologies if there's background noise at any stage.
I'm just glad you can breathe and speak, John. Come here, what is the mood like, and how many of you are taking part?
So the mood is good, the mood is upbeat, a few sore feet and a few hundred blister patches on at this stage, but the morale is still good. We left Athy last night at 7 p.m. We had over 100 people with us in Athy last night, and a core group of about 30 or 40 of us have walked through the night, and we've had numbers join us through the morning time as well. So all in all, about 150 or 160 people will have joined us at different stages during the walk. So a really, really, really enjoyable and tough at the same time, but I think we're getting our message across anyway.
John, before we talk about what you and your organisation feel needs to be done to, I suppose, secure a future for farming for young people, as it stands, what is the sense? Do you believe there is a farming industry, a farming future for new generations coming through now in this country?
Yeah, we do, Greg. We believe that there is a future. We're very optimistic about the future. We want our rural young people, we want a future in rural Ireland, and the young farmers want a future. What's needed is, we feel, is the engagement around our issues to secure that future. I mean, we're positioned as a global leader in food production. Our family farm structure is something we're very proud of, that we sell right across the world. 99.7% of our farms in Ireland are family owned, family run, family labour on those farms. I mean, that's a unique selling point when you compare it to anybody anywhere else across the world. So I absolutely believe there is a future, and so do our members, but we need engagement, we need negotiation, and we need constructive dialogue to ensure that it's there.
What are the key changes that do you think are required, or the key measures required to protect that future?
Yes, so at the moment, Greg, to paint a picture for your listeners, there's 6% of the active farming population under the age of 35. That's 1 in 16. So from a strong GA household like yourselves up there, that's 1 to 15 with everybody over the age of 65. That's what agriculture looks like. Your half forward line and your midfield, a third over the age of 65. You have only one person, your first sub, number 16, as the only person under the age of 35. And we feel that we need to get that figure changed. We need to get that statistic changed to get more young people into the sector, not just to drive the sector forward, but to implement the changes from an environment and from a sustainable point of view that we need to do.
But John, what is happening? Like, because presumably there are a lot of the older farming families out there that do have younger people in their lives. Is it that they don't want to hand the farm over at this point, that the younger people don't necessarily want a future in farming? They prefer to go travelling or to do something else? So, like, what is happening that has sort of stopped this rite of passage, almost this passing on of the reins to a younger person?
Yes, Excuse me, Greg, the big issue seems to be across many farms, with the older farmers in particular. The barrier is the financial security, or the lack thereof, when somebody passes on a farm. I mean, you have to put yourselves in the shoes, and we try and do it out of the older farmer who's farmed for 40 or 50 years and invested their lives in it, and the financial security may not be there when they step back. You look at young people who want to step forward, there's barriers there in terms of access to finance and access to land. And that's why we've put forward and we've proposed an on-farm succession scheme that financially supports the older farmer to step back, supports them long-term for a scheme of over 5 years, but also at the same time you're supporting the young farmer through access to finance. And through that succession scheme, they're gaining access to land. And from a young farming point of view, from people in the sector, from people who wish to enter the sector, access to finance and access to land, or the lack thereof, have been identified as the two greatest barriers for young people to come forward.
All right, John.
Let
me just set up a scenario here, right? Say people in the fishing industry, they would suggest that they are being legislated out of fishing. And what we're seeing now is numbers of generations of young people saying there's no future in this industry for me, and they're taking up other roles. And effectively what that could mean is that fishing just dies on its feet. And there are those that think that's happening in farming as well. Like, all of the measures that you are seeking to have introduced seem common sense, but it requires a will by government, or a ethos of government, to see a future in farming in this country. Or maybe that's another thing we sacrifice to the EU. Do you get where I'm coming from, John? Do you believe there is a commitment to the future of farming as is, and to enhance it within Irish governments? Or do you believe that we are effectively bowing to perhaps the European wish for us to move away from meat production and what have you?
Well, I think the pressure has come on from the European Union for that, and I think the legislation and the regulations that have come forward over the past number of years have almost legislated the opportunity out of the sector. We want to create opportunity to provide young people access. When we look at government, we look at the Minister for Agriculture, Charlie McConalogue, has assigned money for the cap funding for farmers across many different sectors, but we see a complete lack of ambition, or additional ambition, to support young farmers to step forward. When we see funding from a national level, if you look at the targeted agriculture supports for improving your farm's infrastructure, we see that young farmers who avail of that now in certain sectors, if they avail of that and they're at a certain scale, they're going to be limited in their ability to grow over the next number of years. So there's many barriers, and legislation is one of the biggest issues in regulation. But we firmly believe that with engagement, constructive dialogue and negotiation, most importantly, we can create a future forward. That's what we need from the government.
What does that future look like? What does that future look like with, the Green Party wanting fields not with cattle on them, but with solar panels to re-wet large areas? The incredibly ambitious afforestation the planting of trees and what have you. You know what I'm saying? On land, yes. Still big question marks over the size of the national herd. All the signs I'm looking at point towards farming as we know it not existing in a generation or two. How do you reverse all of those proposals, or how do they fit into your plan? Let me put it like that.
Yeah, so we've I suppose, to deal with one of those first, the EU nature restoration, and we've put that forward as one of our biggest ambitions and aims to change and to influence. And you're right, that says that there's about 355,000 hectares of drained peatlands that needs to be re-wetted by 2050. We look at that from a community point of view across rural Ireland, and the social and economic impact that will have in every single community from the top of Donegal down to West Kerry, because that's the western seaboard that will be most affected by that. We think that common sense, logic, the future of rural Ireland needs to be protected by our rural independents, by our rural PDs, by those in opposition and by those in government. We don't think the fight is lost. We see opportunity, we see it in our members, but we need to see that negotiation, we need to see that engagement on these issues, and we need them to engage with us to provide a future for rural young people. And you're right, there is many things coming at us, but there's huge opportunity coming for us as well. Those diversification opportunities into other sectors are something that we've looked for into the future for our members to engage in, be that energy production, be that in alternative enterprises. but you need to see an economic return, you need to see an economic reward for that provided for within those sectors.
All right, John, so let me ask you then, so the next generations of farmers then accept that we aren't going to be farming the way we are now in terms of the amount of livestock we have, what they do, the type of work that farmers do. You're saying the generations coming through are happy to diversify and farm electricity and other things, farm wood instead of farming sheep and cattle, for example?
Well, I think the point around reducing numbers is something that we would have never said, and something that we wouldn't put forward either. It's not something that we support. I'm talking about the diversification into energy production, the diversification into anaerobic production, diversification into the likes of organic sectors. But what's needed and what's not talked about in the context of those discussions is the economic reward. We hear loads of talk about the benefits of organics, and it's many other sectors, and that's fantastic. Let's look at the continent, who are more developed in these in many areas from us, and we see the produce that are produced from some of those enterprises and in some of those sectors, from organics in particular, achieving the same price at market as conventional. So when we talk about diversifying, the key thing from our point of view and the message is you need an economic return and you need an economic reward. And that seems to be lost in the conversation at the government level. There seems to be a very clear lack of direction in terms of providing that economic return and economic reward for farmers, because ultimately that's what's needed in their farms.
John, finally, I'm outside the business, right? But there seems to be almost like a hierarchy in farming, and correct me if I'm wrong, or guide me or educate me, right? Because if you're producing beef, everything seems to be against you, and you're the worst in the world, and you're responsible for effectively the world bursting into flames. But, and we saw figures coming out from the Kerrygold parent company today, they're making record profits. They are producing milk and cheese in this country, then shipping it all over the world. No one talks about the environmental impacts of that, the environmental consequences of producing product here and then shipping it to America, one of the biggest markets, etc. I'm not saying I'm against that, don't get me wrong, but that's lauded. That's fantastic. That's brilliant news. Do you get where I'm coming from? It seems to be if you can burn the planet in one area of farming and get a round of applause, yet if you're working in a different area of farming, you're the worst in the world and you're responsible for the world ending almost. Do you see where I'm coming from? Is there anything to that?
I think that argument of the Irish farming population being responsible for the world stopping or for the burning of the world is not based in any real logic, or is not based in any wholesome thought in terms of the world. So let's look at it from a global point of view, and we need to be proud that we're able to produce food here, one of the most efficiently in the world. So if you can produce something most efficiently in the world, why would you not be supporting that? Because the world will still need to eat. The world will still need food. And if we look at what's thrown at farmers sometimes is the growth in the herd. Our national herd, even though there is no national herd, there's 137,000 family farms across the country. Our national herd, those numbers have remained static since the early 1980s. That's a fact. It's undeniable. Those numbers are the very same as they have been. And if we look at the developments in science, if we look at the pathway that's being charted forward for our sector, young farmers are engaging and implementing in those environmental measures that will benefit our sector. We want to engage with those. They're beneficial for the environment, they're beneficial for our future. But what's lacking from a policy point of view is the goalposts seem to be shifting every few months. If you look at the Common Agriculture Policy and the Minister's Mark Tours, he spoke about supporting every single family farm. You look at details then that comes within that is excluding some farms and defining some farms as not being family farms. So if you have 90 cows, or if you have 20 suckler cows, or if you have 41 or 2 head of cattle, under a minister's definition of average and typical, you're not a family farm. So what are you? We completely refute that, as the research shows us back done in 2020 by DCU, that 99.7% of our farms are family farms, family owned and family run. So from our point of view, this march is to demonstrate that we have a future. We need engagement. We need negotiation. We're going to be at government buildings from 1 o'clock today. We hope that as many TDs show up and meet us and hear our concerns and relay them and bring them back and implement them. And anybody who's around listening that wants to join us is more than welcome. And we look forward to seeing as many people there that want to be there in Merrion Square at 1 o'clock.
John, thanks for all your time. Safe travels. I appreciate it. John Keane, President of Macra there, walking and talking 086 60 25,000 WhatsApps and texts to that number. An emailer says, actually it's not, it's a texter. Hands up who's received an extortionate ESB bill. As if there were 20 people living in a house. Holy God, the government gives you free credit, by the way, and then charges ransom prices for taking it. Electric Ireland are the main sponsors of Darkness into Light, and here they are putting people from light into darkness. What do you think about that? I threw this out earlier in the week, or was it? It was earlier in the week. Seeing people getting huge bills, 800, 900, 1,000, 1,100. Now, thankfully, mine has stayed reasonably steady. It's ridiculous compared to where it was at, but reasonably steady. But I know an awful lot of people out there are getting huge bills, electricity bills. But this caller is saying it feels like there's 20 people living in their house. Is that something you've come across? 086 60 25,000. This listener says, it's Ailish in fact, bus Aaron, booking seats on the bus. I booked and paid my return to Dublin Airport. One morning this week, I boarded the bus at Strabane at 7:45. I couldn't get the internet on my phone, so I told the driver I booked and paid. He wasn't going to let me on the bus as I didn't have the information to scan it. As I'm catching a plane and needed to be on the bus, I had to pay a single fare, and he said I could claim back from Bus Aaron. This is a ridiculous situation. The stress and anger this has caused me. I'm a pensioner and not always okay on using the phone for this purpose. That comes in from Ailish, who hopefully now did make that seat. Ailish, it's a barcode, perhaps always best once you've actually just booked it to maybe take a screenshot is what I tend to do, so I have an offline version of it. Perhaps you shouldn't have to do it, but if you've no internet connection, what can you do there? But as I say, I would be inclined to maybe once you've booked, take a screenshot of the barcode, and that should get you away. But still an inconvenience and having to pay twice for the one journey. And Charlie's on Facebook. He says, such strange weather in the last week. Here in Gweedore, the sun has been dancing in the sky for about 2 weeks. We went to Glenveigh on Monday and they had hailstones there. Letterkenny had some snow at the same time. Is the weather changing like Columkill predicted? This county is different. You've got really high places where I'm sitting at the moment. You've got really low places. You've got places where the temperature is 6 or 7 degrees above everywhere else. You've got a massive hard frost in Letterkenny one day and the sun shining at the same time in 7 or 8 degrees in Mallinhead. I don't know, Charlie, if that's what it's down to, or microclimates. But anyway, an interesting observation. Anyone agree or anyone have an opinion?
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
Does the start of another week start you dreaming of adventure? Then swap your well-worn paths for the winding trails of Lochkey Forest Park or the meandering cobble streets of Kilkenny. For more short break ideas, visit discoverireland.ie. Book early for the best value and keep discovering.
For day-to-day healthcare needs, generations have trusted the experienced staff at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From coughs and colds to aches and pains, from vitamin supplements to first aid essentials. McGee's have what you need when you need it, with a full prescription service available daily. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
Preparing for a special occasion? Sorrento Shoes has the finishing touch. Shoes and bags in pastel shades, bling or classic neutrals. Sorrento Shoes. Available in all leading shoe stores.
The groom goes free. The groom goes free. Yes, you heard it. The Groom's Room. Evolve Clothing, Letterkenny Retail Park. The groom goes free. Call in today. Terms and conditions apply.
Connolly's Volkswagen Letterkenny, your only official Volkswagen passenger and commercial vehicle dealer for County Donegal. Pop in to visit our showroom on Canal Road, Letterkenny. Speak to a member of our friendly team and drive away in your dream Volkswagen. Book a test drive on 074 91 22 333 or check out our full new and used range at connellys.ie.
Right, most of Northern Ireland schools are closed today due to a full-day strike by teachers. For the first time, the National Association of Head Teachers is taking part, joining 4 teacher unions who staged a previous walkout on the 21st of February. With almost every teacher on strike, most schools have been unable to open. Dorothy McGinley is president of the INTO. It has 7,000 members in Northern Ireland, and they are, of course, amongst the 5 teaching unions on strike today. Hi, Dorothy.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
I'm good, and I presume you didn't take this decision lightly.
Absolutely not. I suppose from assuming my role as INTO president 2 weeks ago, I have been very, very busy. I suppose our focus now the last week or so has been on our strong 7,000 members in the north. Absolutely not, Greg. We did not take this lightly. We have been in industrial action now, short of strike for the last couple of months. We've escalated our strike to a half-day strike on the 21st of February, and now we are out on a whole day strike today, of which all 5 teacher unions right across the north are actually taking on their feet and actually demonstrating by picketing outside schools and going to a rally in Belfast today. No, we did not take this lightly at all.
Pardon my ignorance, Dorothy. To whom are you protesting? Because there is no government as such in Northern Ireland. Is this a protest that you hope London takes note of? Or, who are you protesting to?
We're protesting, yeah, you're right, Greg, there are no politicians at the moment because they're actually caught up in any idiotic, I suppose, and point-scoring nonsense. It's actually taking away from the real reality for teachers right across the north. So by us actually going out today, we're actually voting for our feet. We're actually trying to tell the politicians that we actually are serious about this. The fact that we have had pay stagnation for the last 12 years, of squeezes of right above 25%, and also then.
Well, Dorothy, we'll get to the issues, but we'll get to the issues. But pardon my ignorance once again. To whom can, at this point, the way things are at the moment, who can accede to your demands, or who do you negotiate with at the moment? As I say, there isn't a Stormont government at the moment, and as I say, I'm not trying to catch anyone out, Dorothy. I don't understand here. Who could meet with the unions and meet their demands?
Our employers can meet with the unions, the education authorities can meet with the unions. We have been waiting for them to come back to us now for a couple of weeks. Our politicians can actually start to work and actually, get Stormont up and running again. So yes, there is an education authority that we are trying to speak to, trying to negotiate with, but they have not come back with us with any substantial pay offer that's actually worth.
And the education authority have that within their remit, that it's they that could meet the pay demands, for an example.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Education authority in the north actually do have that remit.
Brilliant.
But they have chosen to ignore it, and they have chosen to abdicate their responsibilities at this moment in time. So as an INTO union, we're actually very, 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 very exercised about this, and we want to actually stand up and actually say to them, listen, you need to be talking to us, because that's the way forward in terms of our profession and in terms of valuing our educational system.
All right, we'll talk about a little bit about the pay demands, but this is also about education cuts, with which the unions say is having presumably a negative impact on children and young people and their education. What kind of cuts are we talking about, and how is that impacting young people?
I suppose, Craig, the Education Authority announced, and the Department of Education announced at the beginning of January that the education sector had to find £300 million cuts between now and 2024. What's happening now in our schools is that we're getting weekly announcements in the last 3 weeks, for example, of the cuts of much needed services in terms of therapies, speech language therapies, the breakfast clubs, the after-school clubs, the Engage program that we had, which was an absolutely fantastic program where teachers were providing remediation in both literacy and in numeracy for children who actually much needed it, is actually gone, slashed. And this has a devastating effect, particularly on children in the Northwest, poor children who actually needed these services. So we are actually, day on day, we're actually getting so much cuts into our budgets that it's actually not sustainable. And I suppose principals and teachers are actually feeling this on a day-to-day basis. On top of that, the wraparound services that was provided for children is actually now being slashed by 75% and will be diminished and gone in September. And I suppose this is going to have a knock-on effect for all the parents out there, all the children who are actually now obliged to pay for services that actually was provided by the educational services. And I suppose this is on top of the fact now that they are actually not valuing our educational system. We are perceived to have a very, 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 very strong top-class educational system here in the north of Ireland, but it's certainly not happening when we're actually getting cuts right across the board.
And what are the reasons behind these cuts? I mean, there's no new school buildings either for the next couple of years. Access to iPads and what have you being paused. You've mentioned other situations. I mean, is this because of a lack of a government in Northern Ireland, or is this across Britain and Northern Ireland that we're seeing these cuts in education, which it beggars belief to me. But anyway, with all the money that's being spent elsewhere and being sent elsewhere, have you been given any logic as to why education is being hit in the fashion that it is?
You will see that it's actually happening in England and Wales at the moment. We do not know what's actually why. The reason being is that they're not valuing the educational profession, and that's what we would see as teachers. And yet, the problem then is that we have is when they're not valuing the educational system, we're actually having problems in recruiting teachers as a result because of the pay, and then of retaining teachers. So what's happening is because they're not valuing teachers in terms of pay, teachers are actually going elsewhere. For example, Greg, you may not be aware that there's a massive differentiation between pay in the north of Ireland and pay in the south. They're starting off teachers actually getting €16,000 more actually in the south than they are in the north. And the same thing, there is a differentiation between pay in the south, in the north, and also in Scotland. So they're not valuing us as an education. They're not valuing us as a profession. And so that's why we're actually not being able to retain our teachers, and we're not recruiting teachers because these teachers have actually gotten into a lot of debt by actually going through third level educational systems, and they're not able to get jobs here in the north. And on top of that, if they are able to get jobs, they're not able to get any sustainable jobs for any long periods of time. So this is a real worry for INTO moving forward. We're not being valued as a profession. They're going elsewhere, and as a result of that, there's a breakdown in educational services. In fact, I would say that there's actual carnage in our schools at the moment. I suppose what they're trying to use is using slash and burn economics, and this is very, very worrying. The fact now that we have a brain drain by devaluing our educational system and devaluing our profession.
And I mean, whatever. And finally, Dorothy, whatever they say, people might have their different views about government and opposition in the Republic, but when 60 school buildings were frozen, it turned into a massive story here. Plenty of debate back and forth in the Dáil, and eventually that decision was reversed or adjusted to allow things to progress. One can't help but feel that if there were a functioning government in Northern Ireland, this would be getting far more traction, much more debate, far more media coverage, to the point whereby maybe money could be found to reverse some of this and maybe try and retain some of those teachers. It can't have no impact on it.
Absolutely, Greg. And if you look at the slash and burn economics that's actually going on in the UK at the moment, there are windfall taxes available. There is money in the economy. There is money in the economy to pay the teachers, pay the educational sector. And, you know, we've had windfall taxes, but they're choosing to ignore what's actually the most valuable asset that they could actually get, and that's the educational system.
I mean, there's no point talking about the Brexit dividend for Northern Ireland, the best of both worlds, and all that kind of stuff. If we can't actually look after our children, none of it matters to me if we neglect our children, and I suppose neglect those that educate our children. Dorothy, where does this go from here? Very finally, in the last minute, this is a very significant day in terms of action in Northern Ireland. What's planned for the future if this doesn't bring the Education Board to the table?
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm actually travelling here to Belfast. I was actually at rallies this morning outside a couple of schools. There is a noticeable difference that the roads are empty. So that's telling you that a lot of the 1,100 schools right across the north, from nursery, primary school, right up to secondary schools are closed. I mean, there's 350,000 children being, impacted today. But that disruption, I suppose, is actually, it is what it is. But I suppose as a union and with our sister unions, we're actually looking at the bigger picture. We're actually all attending a rally today. We've started it now to a full day strike, and we are waiting now for our employers, our education authority to come and speak to us and actually put something on the table that we can actually negotiate with, and bring back valuing, our educational system and valuing our teachers back to where it belongs.
Dorothy, thanks for your time this morning, and I should have said it at the start of the interview, congratulations on your appointment as president of the INTO. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, Gormila Mike, Craig, signing it.
Take care, Slán. Okay, back with the weather forecast shortly.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
Did you see Ryan is leaving the late, says I, to old Mr. Brennan? After 14 years, is he? Would you not go for Ryan's job after 50 years making bread, says I? Nah, it's a baker's life for me. I'm more early than late, says he. And anyway, one for everyone in the audience on a Friday is nothing when you're baking one for everyone in the country 7 days a week. Brennan's. Today's bread today.
Do you know what I love about Letterkenny Shopping Centre? I love it because everything I need is under one roof. There's fashion shopping for women and men, health foods and cosmetics, Tesco's and Pennies, free parking and late night shopping Thursday and Friday. I love it because Letterkenny Shopping Centre has it all, including homeware, jewellery, hair and beauty and Revolution Laundry and their free car park. Letterkenny Shopping Centre. So much choice and open 7 days.
An apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Yes, but a Joya apple keeps the sadness away. Crunchy, juicy with a hint of acidity. Get some Joya in your favourite store. Eat Joya. Taste the joy. And with the Joya contest, you can win an electric car.
Inishowen Co-op invite you to a renewable energy information event in the Inishowen Gateway Hotel, Buncrana, Wednesday, 26th of April at 8 p.m. Listen to the experts and find out the facts on anaerobic digestion, solar and wind energy, and how they will benefit you farming in the future.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Lanzarote is back. Check out our new weekly flights to Lanzarote with Ryanair. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
Okay, let's have a look at that weather forecast for the rest of this Wednesday. And I can tell you that sunny spells to start with this morning, becoming mostly cloudy with limited sunny spells for the rest of the day. Highest temperatures will range 9 to 14 degrees in light southerly breezes. Okay, welcome back to the 9 till noon show. A caller says the report yesterday on Highland Radio about how Ireland is paying double the amount for electricity than our EU neighbours shows up this government for what they are, putting the profits of big business before the common good. It is really disgusting how, as people, we haven't a government who put our interests before companies' profits. It clearly is price gouging, and the people in power sit on their hands. That's what they think. What about the chemtrails in the sky, says this listener? Do people not know that the elite are messing with our climate and then it's all about climate change, brainwashing people into believing it's all this climate nonsense? I've read the comment out of respect to you for texting it in, but I would love if you explain to me what you think's happening with the airplanes, because I just don't see how it all works. I mean, we see what goes into the airplanes. Are you saying that the airlines are all complicit in it? What are they pumping out? How is that affecting the environment? Do they purposely not make it rain in certain countries that need water? What's going on? Who's behind it all? Let me know. 086 60 25,000. News and obituary notices on the way.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
At Tesco, we've prices to make you smile. Simply scan your club card or app.
Club card accepted.
And boom. The prices go down. Like Kellogg's Crunchy Nut 720 gram cut to half price. Rascal and Friends Cocomelon Premium Nappies now 2 for €10. And 7-Up Free 24 330ml cans reduced to €10. The power to lower prices with your Tesco Club Card. Tesco. Every little helps. Product subject to availability. Excludes Express stores.
McGinley's Furniture have a huge spring sale now on. It includes selected suites, beds, mattresses, living room and dining room furniture. Also savings on occasional furniture, including lamps, pictures and mirrors. With up to 40% off. It's one furniture sale you don't want to miss. That's on right now at McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. See mcginleysfurniture.com.
Are you looking for a way to invest for your long-term goals but think you can't afford to? John F. Lowery Financial Services can help. Did you know that you can invest in stock markets and other growth assets with as little as €100 per month? There are many great benefits to saving apart from the obvious. It makes you feel good, reduces worry, prepares you for emergencies, teaches self-discipline and gives you choice. These benefits all make for a healthier, more stress-free environment. So why wait? Start your investment journey today by visiting jfl.ie. John F. Lowery and Associates Limited, trading as John F. Lowery Financial Services, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Investments can go down as well as up. Past performance is not a reliable guide to future performance.
Kajay Marata Shiv and Shackton Shah Rulia Bulia Bay Omi Hori and Eurovision Shoshara Biosa Studio. Sharkuji Art Ihi Kedinya Bigi Lane.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning. It's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. The Minister of State for Transport has been urged to ensure a standby aircraft is in place at Donegal Airport. Minister Jack Chambers says the department continues to monitor the airline's performance and engage with it after people were left stranded on a number of occasions because of the cancellation of flights. A standby aircraft was brought into use at the airport for a period earlier this year. However, Deputy Thomas Pringle says it must be available as needed to ensure a reliable service.
The Minister, in response to me, said that he isn't going to make a standby aircraft available, but since that aircraft was made available, there has been further cancellations. I think that the Minister needs to quite clearly say that there's going to be a standby aircraft available at all times to pick up the slack on the route, and that should be a normal thing because the contract is to provide services on the route, so therefore the services should be provided, and the standby aircraft is necessary for that, obviously.
The chair of Donegal County Council's Defective Concrete Block Committee says the Housing Minister and Department must take on board concerns raised around the Enhanced Defective Block scheme ahead of the publication of regulations. Those regulations are expected in the coming weeks. Councillor Martin McDermott says there are important elements of the regulations that must be updated and the process of the scheme made more streamlined. He says while proper redress is needed, it must be delivered in a timely manner.
People are in the middle of rebuilds and they are struggling with the cost increases. So it's important that the new scheme giving people the rise in a square foot rate and the rise in the cap from 247 to 420,000, that people can avail of that, and at the minute people can't avail of that. So it's vitally important that the regulations are out there as soon as possible, but it's also vitally important that the regulations are right and works for the homeowners.
A man is due in court this morning charged in connection with a serious assault in Glencullen on Sunday night. A man in his 20s was set upon outside a licensed premises in the Cashel area shortly after 9:30. He was taken to Letterkenny University Hospital for treatment for serious injuries. The man charged, aged in his 20s, is due to appear before Glenties District Court at 10:30 this morning. Most schools north of the border are closed today as all 5 teachers' unions go out on a one-day strike, seeking an end to what they say is over a decade of pay stagnation. Donegal native Dorothy McGinley is president of the INTO. She's been a teacher in Sign Mills. She says today's strike is the culmination of what's been a long period of industrial action.
We did not take this lightly. We have been in industrial action now, short of strike, for the last couple of months. We've escalated our strike to a half-day strike on the 21st of February, and now we are out on a whole-day strike today, of which all 5 teacher unions right across the north are actually taking on their feet and actually demonstrating by picketing outside schools and going to a rally in Belfast today. No, we did not take this lightly at all.
Dorothy McGinley speaking there to Greg on the show a short time ago. Plans for a cinema in Donegal town have been dashed again. It's believed the site, which was earmarked for the development, has been sold to a major supermarket chain. Planning permission for the 2-storey 5-screen cinema was granted in November 2019. The Mayor of Donegal town, Pádraig Kennedy, says once again the people of the area have been let down.
It's just sad to think that the whole community came together with the help of Donegal County Council and all. They got together and the planning was approved and everything was looking like it was good to go. And then unfortunately the word now is that the site is sold and that we can't get in contact with the developer to see is it definite. It seems to be common knowledge that it is sold, and yet again the people of Donegal town are let down.
And the government is being urged not to let emotion get in the way of providing proper health care for women. An independent review of Ireland's abortion legislation carried out by barrister Mario Shea is being published today. It's expected to make 10 recommendations, including removing the mandatory 3-day wait period before a termination. Well, Aontu leader Pádraig Tobin believes many people will be shocked by the extent of the recommendations.
The government obviously encouraged people to vote for the referendum on the basis that there would be some safeguards for the unborn child within the legislation. And here we are a couple of years later, and it looks like that those safeguards are going to be deleted and those promises are going to be reneged on. And I think people will be angry in relation to that.
Weather forecast, it'll become mostly cloudy with limited sunny spells for the rest of the day. Highest temperatures ranging 9 to 14 degrees Celsius in light southeasterly breezes. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Until then, from the news team, have a very good morning.
The obituary notice is for this Wednesday morning, April the 26th. The death has occurred of Tony Clark, 24 Cloncool Park, Buncrana, reposing at Murphy's Funeral Home today and tomorrow from 6 o'clock until 9 o'clock each evening. Removal on Friday morning at 9:15 to St Mary's Oratory, Buncrana for Requiem Mass at 10 o'clock, followed by cremation in Lakelands Crematorium at 4 o'clock. Requiem Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv/Buncrana. Family Flowers Only Please donations in lieu of desire to the Irish Lung Fibrosis Association, care of any family member or Murphy Funeral Directors. The death has taken place of John Tish Gallagher, St Joseph's, Drumfin, Falcara. His remains are reposing at his late residence with rosary each night at 9 o'clock. Funeral Mass on Friday morning at 11 o'clock in St Finian's Church, Falcara, followed by burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. House private following the rosary each night until 10 o'clock and on the morning of the funeral. The death has occurred of Noel Crossan, 3 Hillcrest, Letterkenny. Remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral from there going to St Eunan's Cathedral for Requiem Mass at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, with burial afterwards in Holy Cross Church Burial Grounds, Dunfanaghy. Family time from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. Family Flowers Only Please donations in lieu of flowers to the Donegal Hospice. The death has taken place of William Ernest Ernie Keatley, late of 16 Laha Road, Killen, Castlederg. Service of thanksgiving for the life of Ernie will be held in St Bestice's Parish Church this afternoon at 1 o'clock, followed by committal in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu of desired to St Bestice's Church Bright and Beautiful Restoration Fund, care of Robert Armstrong and Son, Funeral Directors, Castlederg. The death has occurred of Jennifer Margaret Mackey, née Young, of Castlefane, Duncanely. Jennifer's remains are reposing at her home today from 2 o'clock until 8 o'clock. Funeral service tomorrow afternoon in St Peter's Church, Killatee at 1 o'clock, followed by committal in the adjoining graveyard. The death has occurred of John Gallagher, Corradui, Crossroads, Killygordon. Remains reposing at his late residence. Funeral leaving from his late residence this morning at 10:15 for Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Crossroads, Killygordon at 11 o'clock. Interment afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. The Requiem Mass will be streamed live on the St Patrick's Church, Crossroads, Killygordon YouTube channel. And the death has taken place of Alice Duffy, Lower Main Street, Kilmacrennan. Remains are reposing at her home. Funeral Mass this morning at 11 o'clock in St Columba's Church, Kilmacrennan. Burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Funeral Mass can be viewed on churchservices.tv. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Happy news from Aldi. We've topped the leaderboard at the National Parenting Product Awards with 22 wins, making us the most awarded retailer. There were golds for our organic Mamia baby food range, Mamia Ultra Dry Junior Plus nappies size 5+, and Mamia Premium Newborn Mini size 2 nappies voted the nation's best nappies by parents in Ireland. So, Mum and Dad, not using Mamia nappies yet? Whew, could be time for a change. Aldi, every day amazing.
And good morning to you once again. You're very welcome back to the 9 till noon show here in Highland. If you've just joined us, a very good morning to you. It's good to have you on board. Right, okay. You're being invited to an information evening about the national organisation alone. You'll learn about the supports and services they offer and those 60 plus, and what you can do to support local older members of our community. Everyone is welcome. It takes place in the Mulray Woods Hotel, Milford, this coming Friday, the 28th at 7 p.m. It's all part of the GEA Healthy Clubs. So get along to that event in the the Mulray Woods Hotel in Milford this Friday, the 28th of April at 7 p.m. I said I would mention that, and there you are. Are you travelling abroad to another country this year for holidays and want to take the pet with you? Pet the Vet will join us after 11 o'clock. If you have any questions, text, WhatsApps or emails. Is it all about travelling with your pet, Caroline? Is it all about travelling with your pet, or pet questions in general? Travelling with your pet. So are you travelling abroad or to another country this year for holiday and want to take your pet with you? Pet the Vet will join us after 11. So any questions, text, WhatsApp or email us and we'll get them answered to you. Good morning. I'm Specsavers in Letterkenny's community champion and we'd like to invite Greg for an eye test. I've been to your colleagues in Donegal Town, but thank you very much. I'm just listening to him there and I think he needs a small reading prescription to make life easier. If you listen, that's really nice of you, but I was with your colleagues in Donegal Town and they are excellent, right? But the problem I have is that I probably would benefit, and I did get a pair of reading glasses, but I also have 3 monitors here and they blur the monitors, so I'd literally be just taking them off for that small period of time when I'm reading the newspapers. But I really appreciate your invitation. But I have a pair, but I can't wear them for the programme because, as I say, I have to look at writing at different distances, and I would need 2 or 3 different prescription glasses. But I had it out with your colleagues, and They did give me a pair of glasses. It just wouldn't suit me presenting this programme, but thanks so much for that. Greg, media won't say when you take in thousands of migrants, it adds to the housing shortage. The housing shortage, it adds, everything's going to add to it. But the problem is that the housing crisis was here long before we took in any migrants. Up until now, most of the migrants are living in massive hotels or massive spaces, units of accommodation that in and of itself wouldn't actually solve the housing crisis. We are 36 billion in the black, and there is no reason why we couldn't properly house people and then offer others international protection. Whether we do or not, that's another conversation, of course, but there's just no excuse. It's not like 2 or 3 bedroomed houses are being snapped up to house migrants. They're just simply not there. I take your point. I understand exactly where it's coming from. Of course, more people coming in are going to create more pressure on housing. But if you see where people are being housed now in a hotel room, I remember we took Hudson to a hotel. It was lovely. But we got up, we had these great notions. We got up and left at 7:30 in the morning because a toddler running around a hotel room was just an absolute nightmare. So I certainly wouldn't like to live in that environment long term. And I don't think that type of accommodation is a long-term solution to the long-term housing crisis that we have here either. Greg, it's all very well the government saying that a saving cost of 12,650 per home, but the reality is in Ireland, they never pass on the savings to the buyer. It'll be like any other product or commodity, and that's it. And that's the question I asked. In reality, they say it will make it that much cheaper. But for who? The builder, the contractor? I don't think the customer is going to see that money in their back pocket. Are they? Maybe I'm just too old and cynical now at this stage. I'm not sure if this is... someone wants to buy a pheasant and a duck as pets. I'm not quite sure what kind of pets they'd make, but anyway, does anyone... firstly, is it responsible to have a duck and a pheasant? Pheasants and a duck. I don't like using those two words afterwards. I feel like someone's trying to wind me up, but listen, I'm just going to read it out anyway. They want to have a pheasant and a duck as a pet. Other people do have it as well, though. Where can you get them? We have a telephone number here. All right, we're going to be talking to Sinn Féin's Patrick McLaughlin about the Niall Collins controversy and the lack of houses being built in Donegal. That's coming up after the bingo numbers.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Wednesday, the 26th of April. You're playing on the blue sheet. The reference number is S3. It's game number 17. The numbers are 85, 13, 84, 34, 78, 89, 67, 76, 56, and finally 25. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your NCBI bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Mr. Blue Sky, please tell us why. The Lotto jackpot is an estimated €6 million. Play responsibly in store, in app or at lottery.ie. The National Lottery. It could be you.
This Sunday, avoid the stresses and strains of cooking or cleaning up by pulling into Kelly's Diner for a bite to eat. After training, maybe out for a drive or meeting up, Kelly's have something to suit all tastes, from a full Irish to a full Sunday lunch, or something sweet from the packed dessert menu. Round off the weekend with a stop at Kelly's award-winning diner, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
Be prepared for training and match day with Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure, with a variety of mouthguards, shorts, socks and boots from O'Neill's, ATAC and Adidas. Exclusive Michael Murphy GAA gloves are available in 4 different styles. You'll find everything your team needs to succeed on match day at michaelmurphysports.ie. The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
All right, 16 minutes past 10. On to the programme. We welcome Deputy Patrick McLaughlin, who's Sinn Féin's spokesperson on fisheries and the marine. Thanks for joining us today.
Good morning, Greg.
We'll start with the least important of the topics perhaps we're going to talk about, because the Niall Collins story it's incredibly important, but at the same time it's also almost like a distraction from the real world stuff that affects people in an everyday basis. What's your reaction to this story from the ditch that has been out there for over a week now?
Yeah, it doesn't look good from a public perspective. I mean, people need to believe and see that all citizens are treated equally. So when it comes to planning applications, or when it comes to land that is publicly owned, that all procedures are followed properly. And that's why we have the Local Government Act. And in that section 177 clearly said that, and states for a long time now, that if you're a councillor or a public representative of any kind, you should declare a conflict of interest. If you have a financial or beneficial interest, or if a close family member you are to recuse yourself. So basically leave the meeting.
And at that time, and you've been a councillor as well, of course, as a TD, this was like effectively a local area meeting. It wasn't a full council meeting. Apparently a number of people had made inquiries, and his wife at the time had made the inquiry on behalf of the client. Do you think at that point then he should have recused himself? Considering it wouldn't have gone to a vote, I'd imagined it would have been proposed and seconded, and then gone on to a full council meeting to be discussed, right? So, as I say, you understand how local government works. At that point, would you have expected him to know exactly what's going on? And even though there wasn't a vote as such, although that hasn't been proven or disproven at this stage, would it be common practice, or would you expect him to recuse himself in fairness at that point? I'm not here to defend him, by the way, but I think it's a legitimate question.
Yeah, then that's why Micheál Martin, particularly Leo Varadkar and Eamon Ryan at the press conference yesterday had said that he should have left the meeting, and it should have been recorded in the minutes. So when people look at those minutes afterwards, they could see, right, well, he didn't take any part in that decision and he absented himself. And of course, the reason why this is of public concern.
But if there wasn't a vote, again, I'm actually tapping into your knowledge of local politics. This was, I presume it was proposed and seconded, and they just moved on to the next order of business. Would you recuse yourself from a proposal and seconding of something like this? Do you step out of a room even if there isn't a vote as such?
Yeah, you shouldn't have any involvement in any decision that could be of a financial or beneficial interest to you or a spouse, for example. In this case, in late 2006, it was then Councillor Niall Collins' wife had written seeking to purchase publicly owned land, council land, and then within a month the council had put a proposal, that this was the council executive put a proposal to the local councillors meeting that this land would be sold. He should have absented himself at that time, and that's why we do need a statement, and we should have questions and answers. The government are not going to agree to that, but he certainly needs to make a position absolutely clear.
Well, if you had one question for him, what would it be?
Why did he not recuse himself from that meeting? I mean, that's the core issue.
But what answer would satisfy you if he says there were numerous parties involved in it, it was only at a local area meeting, it wasn't actually being decided how we'd sell it, it then went on to the open market, there was numerous bids, eventually, of course, his wife ended up being the successful bidder. Like, just to get through the sort of the type of politics that I think is getting kind of toxic nowadays, not just in this country but elsewhere, what answer would satisfy you if he says, well, perhaps in hindsight I should have recused myself, I'm sorry? Does that draw a line under it for you and we move forward, or what? Like, what answer satisfies you?
Well, I just want to hear his explanation. I mean, the reason why we asked for a statement to be made to the Dáil by a minister, because, obviously a minister holds a very important position on behalf of the people, is to clarify why an action happened. So, I would be willing to, wait and see what he has to say. But right now, it is of concern to the public. And, the background to this, and I don't need to tell you, Greg, everybody listening knows that we had serious and I'm not accusing then Councillor Collins or now Minister Collins, but we of corruption. But we did have a serious problem with corruption in this country, unfortunately, and that's been through tribunals and all the evidence is there. So that's why these laws were brought in, why these ethics. And in fairness, I have to say, I have witnessed again and again at council meetings where councillors have recused themselves, and it's recorded in the minutes. So I have to say, I don't have any concern in local government. Certainly in recent times, I haven't seen any evidence of people being part of decisions that could benefit them. But I mean, the issue here is he just needs to come and make a statement and clear the air.
So you're satisfied things like rezoning of land, decisions as it relates to the housing of you're confident that that nothing goes on in politics in Donegal at the moment that might benefit certain individuals or groups or whatever. You're fully satisfied with that, you say?
I don't have any evidence of it. And
no, neither do I. I'm just
no. I mean, listen. I mean, we live in a small county and everybody knows each other, and you'll hear comments made, but I don't have any evidence. And I all you can hope is that I'll say this, because I have to be fair about this. The vast majority of public representatives that I have known, and I've been around quite a while now, the vast majority that I have known are actually decent people. They're not corrupt at all in any way. They're in politics. I might disagree with them on issues, but I don't believe they're corrupt. I don't believe they're in politics to make financial gain. That's my general experience.
So if Niall Collins say, and then we'll move on to other stuff, Padraig, if Niall Collins says, look, in hindsight, I agree with the Taoiseach and Micheál Martin and the Green Party, well, particularly Leo Varadkar, I think, and Eamon Ryan, I should have stepped out of that meeting. It was a misstep on my part, but look, I didn't realise what was going to come. Does that draw a line under it for you? Is his position tenable if he apologises and puts forward that defence?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, the problem here, Greg, is it's an indictable offence. So if you were present at a meeting where you did have what's called a pecuniary or beneficial interest, that's what the law states, and you didn't declare an interest, that is an indictable criminal offence. So it'll be interesting to see how he deals with this when he makes a statement.
And why had Sinn Féin not commented on this until very recently? People before Profits, Paul Murphy, I think, raised this issue, and now it's turned into a big story. I can kind of get the national media. They had no statement from Niall Collins. They didn't have access to the documents the Ditch had, as far as I'm aware. So in the way the laws are set up in this country, it would have been hard to cover. I'm not making excuses for anyone, but I can get that argument. Why did Sinn Féin not really start talking about this until after Paul Murphy did? If it's so important.
I mean, I think you would have seen Gavin Riley, who's a very respected journalist, actually put a very good post up about this. There is people have a right to presumption until you're presumed innocent until proven guilty. If the person hasn't made a statement themselves, there are processes that journalists and public representatives have to take, but we were always going to be looking for a statement from him in the Dáil, and that's what we did call for. I did that yesterday on behalf of Sinn Féin, that he would make a statement, that he would clarify his position, and he has a right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. But the issues that the Ditch have reported are of public concern, and he should clarify those issues.
All right, we'll see how that pans out and if it goes away. I'd imagine, I wouldn't be surprised if the Ditch has something to publish almost immediately after his statement in the Dáil, such as the how dig they can actually deep, but we'll have to see how that pans out. Right, figures published early enough last week, I think, showed, if I'm quoting the same figures from memory, no affordable homes were delivered in Donegal last year. I think 3 were delivered under one particular scheme. Is that the entire output of Donegal County Council last year in terms of properties for people to get off waiting lists, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, affordable houses, and just for your listeners' benefit, they would be houses that are delivered by either Donegal County Council or what's called an approved housing body, and there's a number of them who are not-for-profit housing bodies that can do this too. That would be where you'd have a reduced amount. So, for example, if you are a family in Donegal and you earn over €30,000, which is probably most families, working families in Donegal, you cannot go on the social housing list. And the problem is that obviously you're struggling to be able to afford a new home. I mean, prices now, certainly I can speak of authority about North Donegal, you couldn't afford to buy a house now based in the market in North Donegal. You know, you're talking about €280,000 for a new starter family home. So that's not affordable. So it's crucial that you build affordable housing for those families who can't go on the social housing list, who are working families but can't afford to buy their own home. So you reduce the cost by building it on public land, take out the profit motive and so on. And nothing was delivered by the government through Donegal County Council last year, not a single house.
And just I don't like the buzz phrases, but a lot of this would have been maybe first-time buyers, the working poor, the squeezed middle. These are the types of groups of people, but not exclusively, that can't afford to get a house that would have benefited from some outputs in terms of these affordable homes.
I can't stress how vital it is that we start to build affordable housing in Donegal. You know, as I say, you know, looking at, I mean, Inishowen Peninsula is a population of over 40,000 people. There hasn't been a single private housing development delivered in Inishowen in 15 years. And the reason why is that you could not get what you'd be asking is about, they reckon, around €280,000 for a three or four bedroom semi-detached, which is to start, you know, a good home, but a starter home. €280,000. I don't know any working family in Inishowen that could afford that as a starting home. So that's why
as I said on the show earlier, I remember when I built my house, the house would have been 4 or 5 times the salary or whatever what the bank thought I was earning at that time. That's probably 7 or 8 times what an annual income. That's why people can't afford to buy houses. It's gone absolutely. It's all built. It's crazy. It's far beyond the reach of. I couldn't do it now. I'm not pull mouthing because I get told off for that, but I simply couldn't build a house at the moment.
No, it's a fundamental. I mean,
children can't plan for
Greg,
that.
Yeah, I mean, you and I, you know, we're not a huge difference in age. Like, you know, the social contract.
You're only slightly older than me.
I'm a wee bit older than you, you know. But I mean, whenever we started off, Greg, you know, the contract was, if you and I worked really hard, and you know, we'd trained or studied, whatever, worked really hard, we'd be able to put a roof over our head. That was the deal in this society. But the generation,
and if you managed to get a site, you could use the site as the deposit, and there was ways that you could get to it, but it's changed now. It's hopeless, and there's no point saying, oh well, we need to move away from this notion of home ownership. All right, if we decide to do that, we have to then, if we're going to compare ourselves to other countries, we have to have a different type of rental market then, so people, as they get older, have some sort of securities. You can't just move away from one without looking at the other, and we're not doing either at the moment.
No, and that's a huge concern. And rent, of course, is too expensive in Donegal now. And then the other element, Greg, is in terms of social housing, is vacant properties. You know, and we've talked about this. I mean, there's over 7,000.
Before we get to that, I'm sorry to interrupt you, because I know we're talking then about the recruitment of a vacant homes officer. What would the reason be, or is there any determination as to why? We've delivered very little of the housing you talk of in Inishowen over the last 15 years, but B, that there was a zero output of affordable homes in Donegal. Like, who's dropping the ball there? Who's not working in that area? What are the problems? Is it planning? Is it will? Is it staff? Do you have any insight into that before we move on to the vacant homes?
Yeah, housing policy is driven by central government, and if you look at the statistics, I think there's only 7 local authorities, 7 across the entire state, that delivered any affordable housing last year. 7. So Donegal is one of the majority that haven't. So it's central government policy. And, you know, what you need is, and I've said this to the minister, is you need to sit down, you know, in the case of Donegal County Council, you'd sit down with the senior management and you say, this is what we need to happen, okay? We need you to go out there and make this happen. Here's the resources. Do you need more officers? Apparently Donegal County Council does in the housing department, more engineers, you know, more architects, more designers. how can we cut out bureaucracy? I mean, it takes 18 months to progress social housing projects just through the bureaucracy of the department. So there needs to be a streamlining of that. The other thing is, whenever you're engaging with building contractors, it needs to be multi-annual, so more than just one contract. They need to be guaranteed a pipeline of work for maybe 2 or 3 years to try and get the prices and the timelines delivered. So there's just not the emergency. I mean, Greg, any public representative worth their salt in Donegal, and indeed you as a person who's an advocate for the public in Donegal, you know the scale of the crisis. You know what's going on out there. People, are just cannot get that permanent roof over their head, either social housing or affordable housing. It's an emergency. It's been an emergency for a couple of years. And I just don't get that sense from government that they're really, like with the pandemic, there was a sense of urgency.
The government is saying they're throwing money at the local authorities. That the money's there, the schemes are there, draw it down, build the houses. I mean, do we know if the council at the moment have plans? What plans do they have for houses? Have they got sites identified? Are they, at what stage of the process are they at, if anywhere? Are they, we need to know, has the council drawn down any resources from central government that might be available to it? Before we just criticise the government, do we not need to really know and understand, is the blockage at the national or is it at the local? We do have a history of not drawing down money in this county and projects being lost. Yourself, you've sat in the council while a lot of that happened. Do we need to get to the bottom of it?
Yeah, it's a joint effort. I mean, when I speak to the senior officials in Donegal County Council all the time, and there is a huge problem with bureaucracy when it comes to delivering housing. In terms of the Department of Housing, it's a huge issue, and it delays and holds back. I mean, right now, I can tell you, I'm not aware of any plans to build affordable housing in Donegal. There are significant plans around social housing, but not affordable housing. But the social housing is not at the scale it needs to be. I mean, we didn't build social housing council houses for 10 years in Donegal. That created this huge backlog. Everybody in the private sector with the housing assistance payment. So you've got 2,500 families, about 1,500 of them are in private rental. That shouldn't be normally. So you're playing catch up after years of neglect, and it's emergency, and it'll be an emergency in my opinion for the next 5 to 10 years. So there just needs to be, to answer your question, no, I don't see the urgency being driven from national to local, and that's why I speak out about this regularly.
And the problem is that part of the solution to this crisis will be young people sodding off. That's the heartbreaking element to this. That will probably at some point down the line be turned into a positive, that we are reducing lists or waits or whatever because people have given up and left. We have a ton of vacant properties in towns and villages and small little towns on the sides of the road that are almost seemingly going to disappear. Again, I kind of find myself having to bite my tongue on this because I've been talking about vacant properties and what we need to do with them in different schemes, and at one point people were supposed to go out and take pictures of vacant properties and send them off, and all gobbledygook it seemed. But anyway, what do you think actually can be done in terms of repurposing vacant commercial properties perhaps, but certainly vacant homes into usable housing?
Well, there's a bit of good news from yesterday in that they've now increased the vacant homes grant, I think from 30 to 50,000. So if that property's been vacant for 2 years and you're a family starting off, you can avail of that. I think there's also a dereliction grant, which is even more, again, if you get a structural engineer report that the property's derelict. So there is a financial incentive now for starter families to look at, and I would encourage people to look at that. But for me, the big concern I have is that Donegal County Council are only now recruiting a vacant homes officer, and this should have happened. And they need more than one. Donegal is a big county. I would argue they need one in every single local electorate area. I think that's about 6 in Donegal. They need to be engaging proactively, looking at the grants, looking at the incentives. But I just don't see it. And again, there's no drive from government around vacant property. These are not holiday homes I'm talking about vacant properties. And people ask, where are they? If you go into every estate in Donegal, I guarantee you'll see a couple of vacant properties, some of them owned by the banks, Some of them, it's just heartbreaking. I have one on my own street. It's just devastating to look at a perfectly good house that could be rented out, but the banks are in control. I don't know what they're doing. They're sitting on it. There's no stick, there in terms of taxing them for sitting on a property that could be used. So, and it's infuriating because you're seeing families saying, I can't find anywhere to rent. I can't find anywhere to go. Some of them facing eviction. So I just say again, where is a sense of emergency?
So how does a vacant home officer, convert that bank-owned house, probably a vulture fund house, into a usable property, and in what time frame? In reality, you see, this is, say we have a vacant home officer, what happens then? So what do? They compel the bank to sell it to them? Do they buy it at market rate? How does it work? How does that person convert that house into accommodation for someone?
Well, I suppose the first thing would be, if I were a vacant homes officer, was say in Letterkenny or Inishowen or Stranorlar electoral areas, or Milford, North Donegal, to speak about it. And of course, you have Glenties, you have Donegal, wherever you be, I would sit down with the local councillors first, right? And I would be looking for a meeting with the banks. I'd be asking the banks, what properties are you holding on your portfolio right now that are not being rented or not for sale? I'd be talking to local councillors. I'd be talking to local community organisations, inviting submissions urgently, right? And then you start to engage with land registry searches if you don't have the information available. Who owns the property? So you're sitting down and you're first of all starting with the carrot, and you're saying, what can we do to get this property back in either for rent or for sale into the housing market? So it's that type of, but it needs to be in every electoral area, and it needs to be a sense of urgency for the foreseeable future. And I'm convinced that if that approach is taken, you'll free up a good percentage of those houses that can play a crucial role in this housing crisis and freeing up
It's not a silver bullet, but certainly it would be another angle that okay, well, we'll see. Hopefully the vacant home officer, one for the entire county, because listen, I'm at pains not to identify anyone in a particular role, but we're such a small county. But let's just say, for instance, and I'll keep it general, in terms of trying to sort housing out for refugees, for example. We were told that this would all be done in a matter of weeks, that all the resources would be put there, and a very, very small amount of people were asked to cover an entire county to try and match people with homes. Ridiculous. Nothing ever said of it. Did anything ever happen? I would suggest not. A caller wants me to ask you, so I might as well. They have great concerns about the phraseology, unvetted males from other countries coming into this country, which they always have. We've always had an international commitment to take people in. Often these men are coming ahead of their families, and the families will follow at a later date. But anyway, they believe that we're going to see even more of this now with the war in Sudan. What is your view, or your party's view, on unvetted men from other countries coming into Ireland, and also how we're going to house them? And they say they've got no issue with women and children.
Yeah, well, what happens is that, and we've talked to the Department of Justice, and we've talked to the Naturalisation and Immigration Service. When you land to Ireland at the airport and you don't have a visa, you're immediately separated off into the direct provision system, and obviously you have to be separated from women and children. So if you're a single man, there's child protection issues. So how you pool people together, you must protect the children in that scenario. And of course, the direct provision system is overseen by the Children's Ombudsman. They are photographed, they are fingerprinted, there are searches done of European. So there is a vetting process that takes place for everybody who comes in, every single asylum seeker that comes into the country. Now, I do have to say this. I have met with concerned parents recently around the housing of asylum seekers, and they raised issues around school places, genuine concerns around school places, around healthcare. They can't get seen the GP, and they're just concerned about, in Donegal, we reached a point of having 5,000 Ukrainian refugees, and, there was communities all across Donegal have done tremendous work to support those refugees, but we hit a point where apparently there was a maximum, there was a freeze from late last year on new Ukrainian refugees coming to Donegal. So their question is if we're oversubscribed, why is this continuing in terms of asylum seekers now? And as you know, there's asylum seekers came to Buncrana recently. So I've asked those questions because they're legitimate questions around school places and healthcare places and what supports are in the local community for their asylum seekers and families. And I haven't got a response from the minister or the department in 2 weeks. So, communities are being treated badly here. If genuine people, not racists, people with genuine concerns about resources in their community and how this has been managed can't get answers. So that leads then to, I think, anger. And it's important that we let people speak and express their concerns and not label them as racists, And I have to say, the vast majority of people I speak to with concerns, they're not racist, they're not resistant to helping people, but they're genuinely concerned about resources.
So what do we do, though, then? And lastly, and I'll let you go, and I appreciate so much of your time, there is no regular accommodation. So what is going to continue to happen, and if we do see an influx from other parts of the world, is you will get people who often look different, and some people find that scary. They're not racist, they often do, right? And there's a big group of men. And I don't think really it matters where they're coming from. I think if they were coming from a different county in Ireland, if you had 20 or 30 men going into one accommodation centre, people probably would be wondering, well, what's going on here, okay? But what do we do then? Because they continue to come in and we clearly don't have a solution to it. So we have an international committee, I presume. Is there an argument to pause it until such time as we can offer whoever is here a decent quality of life and also make sure we have the services and everything to match? Do we just continue doing it and throwing them into probably unsuitable accommodation? Like, even if you don't have a party's position, what do you think we should do? Because what we're doing now is fires are being lit everywhere, in all different communities. And I think actually it's creating fear and not hate as such, but, nervousness and what have you. And I think actually it's making people have feelings that they never had before.
Yeah.
Right? So what do we do?
Yeah, no, I am concerned about it. And one of the things that concerns me most is the lack of communication, the lack of respect. I mean, I think that most people, vast majority of people, are very reasonable if they understand what is happening, if they're consulted, if they're involved, if they see how there's going to be extra school places, how there's going to be extra healthcare places. But the problem right now is they're basing the allocation of refugees and asylum seekers on where there are properties available. And there are people, and I'm not afraid to say this, there are people making a lot of money from this across the country, across the entire country. And it's based on whoever can provide a building rather than where are the best places in terms of spare capacity and resources. And they're not talking to communities. So it's been handled. I mean, I met with concerned parents, as I say, and I'm talking to communities all the time, and the questions I'm asking are very slow getting answers, So therefore, there's no point turning on people who are asking questions if you're not willing to answer those questions. And I am concerned. Now, the other thing I will say is, and most people get this, like under international law, an asylum seeker, if somebody lands at Dublin Airport and says, I am an asylum seeker, we are obliged under international law to process them, hopefully in a speedy way, and to make a decision. Every country is required to do that. So that is our challenge. But right now, how they're spreading the people across the country, like right now we have what's called temporary emergency accommodation. So it's not even a direct provision system, which wasn't a great system anyway. It's now called temporary emergency accommodation. And the usual processes of consultation, preparation in the community, none of that's happening, and it's causing anger. And I'm worried about it, Greg. I'm worried. I think it's not been handled well, and it's unnecessary. Not to talk to people is wrong, And
as I said earlier on, it's forcing people to change who they are or what they think and how they feel because it's not being handled properly.
Yeah.
And also then obviously fear sells as well, so some people are going to weaponize it to their own ends from all different walks of life and what have you. If you get answers to those questions, we'd appreciate you rejoining us to talk about them. Thanks for all of your time this morning. I do appreciate it. That is Sinn Féin spokesperson on fisheries and the marine, Deputy Padraig McLaughlin.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate holiday loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Get the Irish Daily Star today for your free 12-page Punchestown Festival pullout with all the top tipsters in our stable ready to get you first past the post all week. The Irish Daily Star. Number one for racing, number one for you.
Shop LK at Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure Main Street, Letterkenny. All the kids are back playing football with longer days and shorter nights. Kids football boots from only €25, available in Velcro or lace. Check our new range of kids boots, shorts, socks and accessories. Visit our new club room with quarter zips, t-shirts and matching bottoms for your favourite local club. Click on Teamwear at bmcsports.ie for more details.
In the next 15 seconds, you're going to find out where is the best place in the Northwest to buy a bed or mattress. It's Restex Beds and Furniture Mountaintop, Letterkenny, where comfort meets style.
Get the moss problems in your lawn sorted with Mobacter, the natural product to remove moss from your lawn. Apply Mobacter now and forget. No raking necessary. And Mobacter will not stain your patio areas. Mobacter is the only moss remover approved by the Royal Horticultural Society. Mobacter Lawn Fertiliser for beautiful green, moss-free lawns from local co-ops and garden stores. Check out mobacter.ie for all Viano products or find us on Facebook.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, offering low-rate car loans with fast approval. Apply online at letterkennycu.ie or in office today.
Century Complex is the perfect family day out. Kids will love exploring Century Play. Lots of tasty food options available at Backstage and Baitas, and Century Cinemas are showing exciting kids movies, comedies, dramas, action movies and more. Call us on 074 91 21976 or visit centurycinemas.ie for more information.
Brian Murray from Fair City here. I'm one of the 64,000 people living with dementia in Ireland. This year, I'm proud to support Alzheimer's Tea Day, which is taking place across Ireland on Thursday, May the 4th. Play your part by hosting your own Tea Day event. Register today at teaday.ie. There's something about a cup of tea.
There's a gaggle of monsters you'll see around town, in every colour from bright pink to brown. And just like us, they have hopes, dreams and wishes. A new car, new windows, a holiday diving with fishes. They know just where to go for their dreams to come true. The local credit union who can help you out too. For all of your dreams that are big, small or strange, we've got you covered with our Monster Loan range. Monster Loans from the Credit Union. Imagine more. Loans are subject to approval. Terms and conditions apply. If you do not meet the repayments on your loan, your account will go into arrears. This may affect your credit rating, which may limit your ability to access credit in the future. Credit unions in the Republic of Ireland are regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Discover Edinburgh this summer with Ryanair's 3 times weekly service. Stunning architecture, endless winding streets and an awe-inspiring castle. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
So some sunny spells to start, but becoming mostly cloudy with limited sunny spells for the rest of the day. Highest temperatures will range 9 to 14 degrees in light southeasterly breezes. Now, Diarmuid Doherty's a business person in Bundoran and joins us on the programme now. Diarmuid, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, good morning, Nate. Thank you.
Right, okay, this is a scheduling coincidence because we just concluded a conversation with Deputy Padraig McLaughlin and the issue of accommodating refugees and asylum seekers came up. There's a great concern in Bundoran, is there? I don't want to over-amplify it or underestimate it either, Diarmuid, as to what this summer the tourism season holds in store because of the amount of refugees and asylum seekers that are accommodated there.
Yeah, well, the Bundoran is, makes its money on heads on beds, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people are coming to Bundoran. It's very attractive to people, but once the 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock period comes, they're leaving town because they can't get accommodation, and that's creating a shortfall in the nighttime economy, the spend in the nighttime economy, and I mean, talking to a lot of people that are in business and just generally families are employed in businesses, they're very concerned that there is going to be a serious shortfall in regards to the spend. Now, Bud Fáilte brought out a survey earlier in the year, or Fáilte Ireland, sorry, that they estimate that there's 1.1 billion going to be lost to downstream businesses, i.e. entertainment
Cafes, news,
providers.
news agents, pubs, amusement arcades, whatever it might be. In other words, things that places that people spend their money whilst they're staying in an area.
Exactly. And for every euro spent on accommodation, they estimate that there's €2.50 spent downstream from people going out for a night, for a meal, or whatever it may be. And a lot of the, like most tourist towns, were seasonal, although the season in Madorn is quite, extensive. But people rely on the big influx of people, particularly weekends during the winter, and then, June, July, or September. And if people aren't spending the night in Madorn, there's going to be a serious shortfall of expenditure into the local economy. And that affects...
Jaron, so how many... there's a lot of hotels. I can think of 4 off the top of my head, but I know there's more. How many beds are currently being taken up that ordinarily would be available for tourism? Do we know that, even a guesstimate?
Well, the last estimate that was late last year, and there seems to be a lot more people since then, was short of 1,000 people being accommodated in Madorn.
In hotels and apartments, presumably, that are also available for rental?
Apartments, generally in the Madorn area, whether it be in houses that were rented out, small B&Bs that have been bought up and are now being used.
So they say across the county, 50% of our hotel accommodation, just focusing on that for a moment, 50% of our hotel accommodation is taken up by government effectively to house refugees. I presume then, would you guess that figure is much higher in Bundoran?
Well, I would say it's around the 50% mark. But accommodation in Bundoran, just doesn't consist of hotels. There's a lot of apartments were built during the tax incentive in the early noughties. They would have been used for accommodation. So there's a wide variety of accommodation sources in Bundoran. It's not just hotels, which all would have been very busy during the holiday season. But at the moment, it's I can see, I have businesses on the main street. I can see, once 6, 7 o'clock comes, you can see the numbers dropping drastically, and there's not that nighttime spend. So obviously people aren't staying in the town. I have accommodation. I provide accommodation. Most of the people that would be staying with us would book for the next time before they leave because they're afraid they won't get a place. So based on Falch Ireland's figures, Bundoran's going to lose out on about 15.5 million this year, and that affects the whole general economy of South Donegal. People buy mattresses and carpets and beds in Ballyshannon, buy stuff from wholesalers, drink suppliers, food suppliers. So it's a whole knock-on effect, and it's going forward. It has to be rectified.
So, up until now, Jeremy, I think a lot of people would go, what you're saying makes an awful lot of sense, and maybe people are making a fortune out of this, and it's at the expense of Bundoran, and that maybe Bundoran was asked to do too much because it's not just the accommodation. Obviously, it's local GP schools and what have you, and people probably would be along for the ride with you on this argument, thinking that maybe some of this accommodation should be freed up for summer, people moved elsewhere and what have you. But then you go on to suggest that you think that people are actually exploiting the system, that people are not necessarily fleeing war or hardship, that they see Ireland and South Donegal as a soft touch, and you kind of want the drawbridge to be pulled up. This is where you might lose, I would suggest, quite a number of people in your argument, and I say that respectfully.
It's like everything in life, there's always going to be abuse of every system. It seems to me, looking at what's happening in the rest of Europe, it's been made very attractive to come to Ireland in regards to what you receive and what. So. I think the jury's out on that one. But
so do you know what, say, for instance, a mother and 2 children coming out of Ukraine, what do they get? They get accommodation. What else do they get, Jeremy? I actually don't genuinely know the answer to this question. Do you know what they get, that they're seeing it as so good that they're exploiting it?
Well, it seems strange to me. I travelled. I was in Italy last week. I was chatting to some locals there. There doesn't seem to be an influx of Ukrainians there. I like I've travelled in Spain, same situation there. I think that, look, whatever they're getting is no concern of mine. What my concern is that they're being in Bundoran in a tourist town, and all the little tourist towns. I mean, Donegal has a large number, and Kerry and all these tourist towns. It's affecting whatever they're getting. As I say, it's what's the downside for the local people and the local economy is my concern. The government set whatever they set to give these people. I think generally it's accepted that they're being well looked after, accommodations, that type of thing. But if the government was to step into, say, an industrial estate in Letterkenny and close half the factories down, there'd be uproar.
Yeah.
From the loss of jobs and loss of supply of businesses applying them things. But basically, in my opinion, it's a very similar situation here. Mm-hmm. And if you say anything about it, you're disrespectful, you're a racist, you're left wing. And I mean,
we don't go down that road on this programme anyway, Jermud. Everyone's entitled to their opinion. I don't think you're being offensive in your opinion. Italy's taken in 200,000 refugees, by the way. So there are refugees there. So it's 4 times what we've done. But anyway, that is besides the point. I think we wouldn't probably even be having this conversation, Jermud, though, if maybe so many weren't moved to Bundoran, because you will remember going back, there was a huge Eastern European population in Bundoran, and in fact it wouldn't be where it's at now if they hadn't moved to that area to work in the bars and restaurants. I'm sure you remember that.
Absolutely. In the early noughties, as I said, the mid-noughties, there would have been a big influx of Eastern Europeans, and I can tell you, I would see them people coming off the bus in Bundoran with their suitcases, and half an hour later they were up with their CVs handed in looking for work. They work very hard. A lot of them have established businesses in Bundoran. They're a vital and very important part of the community, of the GA Club, and I would be on very, very good terms with an awful lot of them people. I've been at their weddings, I've been socialising with them. So there's no issue there with people coming. But when you're closing down the income stream for a community, that's a completely different situation.
How do you think
altogether.
Bundoran will look in the summer, Jermud? I mean, obviously there'll always be day trippers. There are people there that, have their own accommodation or have mobile homes. You know yourself. So there'll still be there'll still be a decent crew around, I would imagine. But has anyone estimated? I wonder. I think you estimated the impact on the economy potentially, but has anyone estimated sort of what Bundoran might look like this summer? How many fewer people might go?
Well, early on in the season, the day trippers it's been very busy. Any bit of sunshine at all, and people are out making use of our fantastic walks and our facilities. Waterworld is open. The big amusement arcade at the seafront is open. The Olympic have opened a new indoor kids play area. So the issue isn't people coming. There's large numbers every weekend, and even during the week coming to Bundoran. It's the fact that the nighttime economy and is being hit by people there's not the same number staying. Yeah, It's not for the want they don't want to stay.
They're looking for the accommodation. It's just not available. All right, Jeremy, listen, thanks for that. I say a lot of people agree with you. Some will disagree. I don't think it's anything about left or right or whatever. It's just what you're seeing, what you're feeling, and trying to operate a business in that area. So it is what it is, and we'll see what the politicians and what have you might have to say about that. But thank you for joining us for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Nick.
All right, Diarmuid Doherty there, 08660 25,000. News is going to be a minute late. Stay where you are.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union, with monster loans available up to €60,000 for all occasions. Visit letterkennycu.ie.
At Screwfix, we've got low prices to make you go wow. So you can stock up on everything you need to get the job done. That's low prices on trade essentials, low prices on plumbing and electrical, and low prices on decorating and workwear. Don't miss out. Shop these wow prices at screwfix.ie or in over 30 stores. Screwfix, the choice of champions.
Is the
appearance of your staff important to your business? It's the first point of contact for customers when entering your premises. At C&M Embroidery in Letterkenny, they have a huge range of clothing covering all areas of the workplace. It's widely known that customers warm to and trust employees that present themselves well. Have your company name embroidered or printed on all your work uniforms. Contact C&M Embroidery on 07491 28097 and get your staff looking their best.
Breeden's Furniture, Cooley-Maville. With over 40 years of experience in furniture and floor coverings, they've got Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining, flooring, slide robes and occasional furniture. Great prices and large selection now available at Breeden's Home Furnitures, Cooley-Maville.
Following on from their triumphant version of Translations, Ireland's National Theatre, the Abbey Theatre, presents Frank McGuinness's lively new version of Tartuffe at Greenan Theatre from the 3rd to the 6th of May. Directed by Katrina McLaughlin, this endearing comedy follows the hijinks of the irrepressible and charming con man Tartuffe. Book now at greenan.com.
Cutting through the spin. The 9 till noon show on Highland Radio.
All right, loads coming up in the next hour. Stay right where you are, including Pete the vet answering your pet questions if you intend to travel away with your pet this summer. All right, it is 2 minutes past 11 now, so apologies for going late to Michaela Clark. Good morning, Michaela.
Thanks, Greg. Good morning. The Minister of State for Transport has been urged to ensure a standby aircraft is in place at Donegal Airport. Minister Jack Chambers says the department continues to monitor the airline's performance and engage with it after people were left stranded on many occasions due to the cancellation of flights from the airport. The chair of Donegal County Council's defective concrete block committee says the housing minister and department must take on board concerns raised around the enhanced defective block scheme ahead of the publication of the regulations. The regulations are expected to be published in the coming weeks. A new report into abortion care in Ireland has found the service is untenable. The review, which looked into the effectiveness of Ireland's abortion laws, found just a handful of providers in primary care and hospitals are carrying out terminations, which could lead to burnout. It also found the 3-day pause period before getting an abortion is not necessary. A Donegal deputy says the appointment of a vacant homes officer, which is currently being finalised by Donegal County Council, is too little too late. On today's 9 till noon show, Deputy Padraig McLaughlin suggested there should be a vacant homes officer in all of the county's local electoral areas, and one of their first engagements should be talking to banks to discuss how housing stock they are holding can be released. Plans for a cinema in Donegal town have been dashed yet again. It's believed the site, which was earmarked for the development, has been sold to a major supermarket chain. Planning permission for the 2-storey 5-screen cinema was granted in November 2019. The Mayor of Derry City and Strabane District Council, Councillor Sandra Duffy, has requested an urgent cross-party meeting with senior management at Seagate. There are fears that job losses and wage cuts are on the horizon for the company. Most schools north of the border are closed today as all 5 teachers' unions go out on a 1-day strike seeking an end to what they say is over a decade of pay stagnation. Donegal native Dorothy McGinley is president of the INTO and a teacher in Sia Mills. She says today's strike is the culmination of a long period of industrial action. And the Milford and District Resource Centre has secured funding to progress its plans to develop a community hub at the Old Milford Reformed Presbyterian Church. The Heritage Council has allocated €16,300 under the Community Heritage Grant Scheme, which will go towards a conservation plan and feasibility study of the building. Those are the latest headlines. We'll be back with an update again at 12 noon.
OK, Michaela, thank you very much for that.
Every week, National Lottery players raise over €4 million for good causes across Ireland.
Cut. You said 4 million every week.
It is €4 million every week.
€4 million?
Uh-huh.
It must be a typo. Can you check
I'm telling you, every week, over €4 million is raised for good causes.
All right. No need for a Marty meltdown.
I'll ignore that. Every week, National Lottery players raise over €4 million for good causes across Ireland. The National Lottery. Support responsibly. Based on 2022 financials.
OK, you're welcome back to the 9 till noon show. We welcome onto the programme now this morning former presidential candidate Peter Casey. Peter, thanks for your time. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
How's life treating you?
Very good. Over
over in America for my youngest daughter's graduation. So.
All right. Okay. Now, you have plans to convert an office building into an apartment complex to house Ukrainian refugees in A, Donegal Town. Now, yesterday when I was reading this, I missed out the A and I thought it was in Donegal Town, but it's not. It's in Inishowen. So what are the plans, Peter?
So the plans originally, Greg, were to extend the existing building, because when Tuzla and HSE moved out, the plan was to actually put apartments, and we put in planning permission for 12 additional apartments on the site. And the idea was that these apartments could be used to help house people who were needing accommodation for having to move out to repair their homes for Micah. You know, the council didn't approve the plans for that particular. They wanted that particular application, so that was withdrawn. And so we're putting in additional changing plans to extend the existing building, so that the council wanted the existing the building to be joined on to the existing building, but that's going to take a couple of years by the time we get the plans through and get the building built, you know. So in the meantime, short term, we looked at what could we do to help the situation with the Ukrainian people here living in Ireland. And I feel very passionate about Ukraine. You know, I really feel that Putin has to be stopped. And, you know, I actually went over to the border and went to Poland and tried to volunteer when the war started, but they wouldn't let me in because I was over 60. So I really feel that we have a responsibility to try and support the people from Ukraine who have been forced to leave Ukraine.
I'm not going to. I don't want to, because it's not what we like to do, is to pitch one group of individuals against another, Peter. But I mean, obviously, no, not you. I'm on about. Sorry, Peter. I meant me. Peter.
I have no problem pitching against Putin.
No, but Peter, I wasn't saying what you do. It was to phrase my next question, because some people listening will say that you are obviously aware of the housing crisis in Inishowen, be it Micah or otherwise, and that why would you not have this accommodation for local people? And I'm only asking the question because that's what some people are thinking at home.
Yeah. This is a short-term solution. We have a very urgent requirement where the minister actually said that Ukrainian people will be sleeping on the streets, that there was no accommodation for them. So that was really what was the motivator and making me feel that, you know, we have to do something short term. This is a short term solution, and it's going to be run on a not-for-profit basis. So any profit that gets made out of this operation will be delivered. 50% of it will go to local charities, and the other 50% will go to Ukrainian people who are in Ireland in financial need.
And is it specifically for Ukrainians? Because obviously there are pressures on accommodation, say, for instance, for migrants, for example. Or can you actually determine that this is specifically for Ukrainians?
Absolutely, I can. Yeah, my position is very clear. People who are in Ireland illegally shouldn't be looked after. You know, I mean, if you're here illegally, then apply. You're a queue jumper. And so I don't support people who are in Ireland illegally. I absolutely support people coming in, migrants coming into the country. We need workers, and we need people to come in and obey our laws and respect our laws, but apply properly to come to Ireland. You know, so the people who jump the queue and come on a plane and put their passport down the toilet and they've got no passport when they get off the plane, those people I don't believe it's the responsibility of the state to accommodate them.
Do you think that this application might be looked on more favourably because it is to fix a problem that the council have effectively in housing Ukrainian refugees, or will that be a factor?
Well, I think that at the moment, Ukrainian people are being housed in hotels, which is devastating our tourist industry, and all of the flow-on economic effects that has on our economy. So, I think it's important that we especially coming up to the tourist season now in the summer. It's very important that we have our tourist industry is being looked after, and that our hotels are open and able to accept the people coming from overseas. You know, that's where the economy thrives, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
And what do you say to local people who have concerns about, a significant increase in the population?
well, you know, the population of Buncrana typically goes up dramatically during the summer months. Usually, you know, goes up about 3-4 times its normal population, so it can accommodate that. So that I don't have an issue with. I think we can absolutely accommodate additional people. And we are going to absolutely need additional workers whenever this war in Ukraine ends. We're going to need people to help build the 6,000-7,000 mica houses that have been that we haven't even started working on yet. I think we've only really completed about 30 mica houses. So you know, there's going to be such a huge shortage of labour, accommodation, and workers.
When do you think, if all goes to your plans, when do you think you'll start seeing people housed in this premises?
I'd like to see them housed as soon as possible. You know, it doesn't make sense to have a place where people can stay and have it empty. So, you know, I mean, I think it's this. I believe that there are a certain scary people who are saying, you know, racist things, which is really disturbing, and saying that, you know, I'm getting texts from people saying that these people steal our children. Can you believe that? I mean, I'm getting texts from a person in the locality saying that, you know. I mean, there's absolutely no evidence that Ukrainian people coming into Ireland are creating any crimes over and above the normal rate of crimes that are committed in society. So, you know, there's absolutely no basis for that whatsoever.
How committed are you to this? If say, for instance, there are objections, which I'm sure there might be, and would you continue through the process with Ombud Pleanála? Are you that committed to it?
Of course, I'm not going to be intimidated by racists in the area, you know, and so I think it's totally wrong for people to stir up and make statements which are totally wrong, you know. And I've made it very clear: this is a not-for-profit operation. You know, and half the profits we will be given to local charities, and half will be given to finance Ukrainian people.
Can I just say, and I know your comments there, you're entitled to feel how you feel, and you're probably making it off the back of some text that you're receiving and what have you, but there are also people out there who have very genuine concerns, and the motivation is concerns over school places, being able to get access to GPs and what have you, and you know, we need to talk to people who have those genuine concerns and to assure them not everyone who has a concern I think should be described as far right or racist.
I'm not for 1 second saying that anyone who expresses a concern is a racist. I'm just saying I've been getting racist, messages.
Understood.
So, and I totally agree that it's very important that we have the infrastructure to support the healthcare, the education, you know, to support. But that's a decision that the government is making, and the government is responsible for making sure, like, they have a €10 billion surplus, you know, over and above the tax receipts from the American companies. So a 10 billion surplus. So there's no shortage of funding for the government to put in place the support that is necessary. You know, now I do feel that Ireland has been way over in terms of the number it's taken in, which is great. You know, I mean, we've taken in 80,000 people, and Britain has taken in 160,000. So, you know, and Britain is 11 times bigger than we are, and you know, so we've certainly per capita we've taken in, you know, a very large number. You know, but these people are here now. And they have to be looked after, and they have to be, you know, accommodated and treated with dignity and looked after properly.
All right, 2 more questions, if you don't mind, Peter. Where are you at in the process? In other words, what are you waiting for planning on? What work would need to be done after that were awarded? And as I say, I know you say people should be able to get in there straight away, but you know, what do you have as a time frame in your mind?
I would like to see it completed as soon as possible because, the problem is immediate. The problem is urgent. We need to start helping get the hotel industry up and working again. And the hotels, can't be accommodating all these people because our tourist industry will go down. So I would like to see it brought about as quickly as possible.
And do you have any agreements in place with the state, like preliminary agreements with the council or the state in terms of them expressing an interest in this accommodation yet?
Yes, we've had discussions, so there is an interest, And as I stressed, this is a short term. It's a 2-year project. Hopefully, it won't even have to be. Hopefully, the war in Ukraine will end. But I think realistically, I can't see it happening. If it ended tomorrow, there would still be a requirement. And for the foreseeable future, tragically, So. And
one very final question: why are you so passionate about what's happening in Ukraine? Lots of people are, by the way. This isn't a loaded question, but you seem particularly emotionally invested in what Putin is doing and what is happening in Ukraine. Is there a particular reason for that?
Yeah, I think you saw the way Putin blackmailed Germany with the oil line. There's no doubt Putin was not going to stop at Kiev. He was going to go all the way down to Odessa and Moldova, free up, inverted commas, Transnistria. He would have ended up controlling 45% of the world's wheat supply, and there's, so I feel that if he had control of 45% of the world's wheat supply, the world would be beholden to Putin, and just the way he turned off the oil supply for Germany, with the pipeline. So I think that Putin is the biggest threat to world peace, without a doubt. And I don't think he wants to restore the motherland, inverted commas. And I believe that he would have certainly wanted to take over the whole of Ukraine, Estonia, Latvia. He would want to return them to the motherland as well, no doubt.
All right.
So I just feel that we had to stand up to his aggression.
Okay, Peter Casey, thanks for your time this morning and best wishes to your daughter on her graduation. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Right, bye-bye. Take care. Okay, we'll be back with more after the break.
The county's #1 talk show, The 9 till Noon Show on Highland Radio.
The 9 till Noon Show with Letterkenny Credit Union. Simplify your debts with a debt consolidation loan from Letterkenny Credit Union. Call us on 074 910 2126 or apply online via our app or in office today.
An bhfuil méidir cliste agat agus gan is agat conas tús a chur lenne úsáid? Clóirí le high price plan méidir cliste Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Agus féach ar an méid foioine bheith úsáidan tú gach mí, gach lá nó fiú gach uirich lig. Is tús cílver chun dúsáid foioine bheith leidú agus chun an tarva is mó a bhaint as the véidir cliste. Le clóru, cuairdaí Electric Ireland Home Electric Plus. Tá méidir cliste agus contas ar lína riachtanach. Caithí ceara bhí imacht thart sula mai teachtar na feimine seo. Tá termíos canílacha I bhaim. Féach ar electricireland.ie.
Inishowen Co-op invite you to a renewable energy information event in the Inishowen Gateway Hotel, Buncrana, Wednesday, 26th of April at 8 p.m. Listen to the experts and find out the facts on anaerobic digestion, solar and wind energy, and how they will benefit you farming in the future.
Find the perfect shoes for any big occasion at Green Shoes. From ladies' dressy heels and matching bags to classic men's dress shoes, Greens have the latest styles and the biggest names. Green Shoes for every occasion. Find them at Market Square, Letterkenny Shopping Centre and in Fulcara, or shop online at greenshoes.com.
House to Home Bridgend, Donegal. Our modest front door opens onto 2 floors of Irish-made furniture, suites, beds, mattresses, dining and occasional furniture. Step into our showroom and see how we can transform your house into a home. House to Home furniture, flooring, slide robes and interiors, Bridgend, Donegal.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin. Expressway, bringing you the time at
19 minutes past 11. Wellness Wednesday coming up very shortly. We're talking to Pete the vet. someone had dropped an E in my script and I was calling him Pet the Vet. But anyway, it's Pete the Vet. He's going to have advice for pet owners who wish to travel with their pets. But some of the comments coming in so far as it relates to a lot of our conversations this morning. Hi, Greg. Wondering where you got the number of 400,000 Ukrainian refugees in Italy. I thought I'd said 2. It was 170 in January, and I think they took in another 10 or 20,000 since. So it was in and around the 200 mark. And I don't believe, if I said 400, I misspoke, because it was 200 was the amount I wished to say. Are you serious, Greg? Italy is over 12 times our population. I wasn't arguing that. I simply... All I was saying to Jermud was, he said he was over in Italy and he didn't see them anywhere, and I simply pointed out that they'd taken in almost 200,000. I never even made a point left or right in relation to that, or up or down. Forget left or right. Does this mean that if everyone in Africa or Europe arrived in Ireland looking for asylum, we'd have to take them in? I think it's proportionate to your population. I'm not sure of the ins and outs of it. But I'll tell you what's coming down the line very soon, if we're not seeing it already, is environmental refugees, climate refugees, effectively. Parts of the world are going to become uninhabitable for one reason or another. And we are just right in the sweet spot in terms of rain and sunshine and what have you. A caller says there's just one hotel in our area, and for the past 18 months it's been full with Ukrainian people. It's not their fault, but it looks very bad for the town that the only hotel is closed to the public. That comes in from Bridget, who names the town Bridget, but just to cover myself, I have to double check that. I don't doubt you for a second, but I hope you understand. I 100% agree with Peter on the folk who lose their passports disembarking the airline, but I can't understand how, if the government is saying that Ukrainians will be sleeping on the street soon if we can't get accommodation, then why keep bringing the poor folk in? Does not make an ounce of sense. Well, what they've done is through their channels and the amount of Ukrainians and refugees generally, I'll get the latest statistics for you. It is slowing down because they all know what's going on. They have the internet and they know what's happening here, and they know in terms of what accommodation is available here compared to elsewhere. So the numbers are slowing already. But I'll get those official figures rather than just say it off the top of my head. Funny, no one had an issue with refugees staying in Bundoran. Now all of a sudden there's no accommodation in the winter. Sorry. Yeah, well, listen, that's understandable because the businesses have an expectation of what they would make in the summer versus the winter. I don't think that's it's a valid point, but I don't think it's surprising. All right, okay. We are going to be joined now, and I think we can say hello to Pete the Vet. Pete, are you there?
I am indeed.
Good morning, Pete the Vet. It's lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Do you think, obviously pet owners are very, very attached to their pets. It's very difficult to leave them behind when travelling abroad on holidays, isn't it, Pete?
Well, for a lot of people, pets are family members. They're like one of us, if you like. And so just as you wouldn't want to leave a spouse behind or one of your children behind, well, they don't want to leave the pets behind either. And formerly, it was very difficult to take your pet with you often. And even now, if you want to take your pet on an airplane, it's quite tricky and it can be quite expensive. But the good news is that because of EU pet passports and because ferry companies like Stena Line have got really good pet-friendly options, it means it's actually now very, very easy and relatively inexpensive to take your pet with you. And if you compare it to the alternative of leaving your dog behind in boarding kennels or whatever, it can make good financial sense too, as well as having the pleasure of the company.
I presume pet owners, and we'll get to some of the options for them. I know you not brushed over them, sorry, you touched on them there. But presumably some people don't go on holidays. Some people don't go necessarily where they want to go. And those that do go maybe don't enjoy themselves because their nearest and dearest is not with them, and maybe they've got some guilt for leaving them in a kennel or something along those lines. So, I mean, pet owners would understand the emotional challenges of holidaying without their pets.
Yeah, well, a survey by Stena Line showed that 95% of dog owners say their dog's needs are important to them when they're planning a holiday. 95%. That's nearly all dog owners. They're worried about what's going to happen with their pet when they go away. So that's a really big chunk of people. Now, I have to say, just in Ireland, something like over 50% of households are pet owners now. So there's a lot of people out there who don't have pets who'll be saying, what's this all about? They won't really get it. But if you're a pet owner yourself, you will understand. You will understand that you thoroughly enjoy your pet's company. They're good for your mental health. They're good for your routines. And you want to have them with you.
So, Pete, realistically, as I say, you mentioned this a little earlier on, I've never seen a dog on a plane. Can you go on your holiday to the south of France or Portugal or Tenerife and bring your dog on or cat on a plane?
You can do it. I think in Ireland in particular, we're not very good at enabling that. If you go to North America, you'll find in the States they have all sorts of pets in the airport. And you'll even see things like pet toilets, especially for pets, in the airports because they're so familiar with it. In Ireland, we're much more slow to adapt to that. And pets on the airplane are seen as more of a nuisance than something that's been welcomed. And they will nearly always have to go into the hold rather than in the cabin. And for a lot of pet owners, that's a deal breaker. So going by air is tricky. That means Tenerife is tricky. But you can go to Portugal, you can go to Spain, you can go to France by using the sea to travel.
And that's it really then. What we're talking about here is that ferry companies obviously are seeing a market here and they're saying this is an extra string to their bow. Why not choose the ferry?
Well, that's exactly it. And I mean, you could say that they've seen the market there. I would put it slightly differently. I'd say they've been listening to their customers. And their customers have been saying to them, look, we want to have our pets close to us. We don't want them just in the car, in the area where the cars are parked. We don't want to leave them there where there'll be the noise of the clunking of machinery and the sound of the sea. We don't want to do that for them. We want to have better alternatives to that. So that's why people like Stena Line have got new options. And the new options include things like pet-friendly cabins. So you can actually... Your beds are there, but so is there space for your pets. And there's like little water bottles for your pets. It's all been customized to make it as ideal for pets as possible. And that's one option. Another option is what they call pet lodges. And they're a bit like glorified dog kennels, but they work really well. So, you can have your dog actually in a kennel, but up on the decks with you, so you can spend some time going up to them and engaging with them and all that sort of stuff.
So if you do, Pete, decide to use that option, you do actually have to get a pet passport separate to, whatever offerings Stena Line, etc. have. How do you get a pet passport?
Well, that's got much easier in recent times, and we really have it down to fine art now, thanks to the EU. So basically what you need to do is you need to take your dog or your cat into your local vet. You need to make sure they've got a microchip in them, and you've got to get a rabies vaccination given to them. And once you've done that, then the vet can enter that onto the pet passport and give you the document. You have to wait for 3 weeks for the vaccine to kick in, and then you're good to go. And the vaccine lasts for 3 years, so you can come and go as often as you want to the UK or indeed to anywhere in the EU. So that side of it is very easy. There's a little bit of a catch in the documents that also, before you come back to Ireland, you have to go to a vet in the country you're visiting to get a certified tapeworm dose given to your pet, because there are some tapeworms in Europe we don't want to have in Ireland. So you have to get that done and certified before you come back. But that's really it. It's actually very, very simple now. And over on the continent, you'll find that there are lots of good facilities for pets. They're much more adapted to including pets in people's lives. In France, for example, you can be in a restaurant and have your pet in your lap, eating from the same table as you. I think we think that's crazy, but that's what they do over there, and it's part of the culture. So it's quite fun to be away with your pet in that kind of environment.
All right, Pete, listen, I was a little late coming to you, but I appreciate your time. If people want more information from you, where can they find Pete the Vet on socials or on the web?
Well, Pete the Vet is the phrase to use. So you can find me as Pete the Vet on Facebook, on Twitter, and at petethevet.com.
Okay, listen, happy petting and travelling and all that. Thanks very much, Pete. All right, that was Pete the Vet there. I'm not a dog owner, so I'm in the category if it sounds like a whole handling. But anyway, we appreciate Pete's time. Have you holiday with your pet? Do you holiday with your pet? Do you not holiday because you can't take your pet? Let me know. 086 60 25,000. As I say, and I make no judgment on this whatsoever, and people get their relationship with their pet, particularly their dogs, I think, is that equivalent, if not stronger, than they might have with a human. So maybe they say, look, I'm not going on holidays, I'm staying with my pet. You're in a judgment-free zone here. Let us know. 086 60 25,000 is the WhatsApps and text. The government sending refugees to the county that has possibly the worst facilities and infrastructure in Ireland looks like bad planning, in my opinion. Italy is possibly over 10 times the population of the Republic of Ireland. Also has decent infrastructure. Again, I'll tell you where I was thinking even when I said that. I wasn't even thinking about how many refugees versus how many people are in a country. I don't even know how that relationship impacts one way or other. Presumably it's about the availability of services. Peter doesn't care about Micah. He's doing this to spite the neighbours. I don't know. Greg, are the apartments only for Ukrainians? No Irish need apply. He's building them for Ukrainian refugees, and he says it's a short-term measure, then they would be available more generally, but he said that 2 or 3 times. It's happening all over the country, lack of beds in all the popular tourist areas. It's not just Bundoran. The man is right. A lot of them see Ireland as a soft touch. We in Donegal have met, and I can think of 5 areas just off the top of my head that I would know of, and I'm not saying the list is exhausted at 5, whereby all or at least half or very close to it of beds are not going to be available for this summer. Now, if you have a CAF or a newsagents opposite a hotel, and this was flagged right at the very beginning of all of this, if you might remember, when the decision was made in Letterkenny, I was concerned about the trickle-down economy and the impact this would have. But anyway, far more hotels are taken up now. It obviously is going to have a huge impact on other businesses. 600 football teams coming for the Foyle Cup this year with no accommodation available for them. That will ruin that competition this year, believes that listener. And still they continue to come in. Thank you so much for it. And different views, people on all sides of the argument, different sides of the argument, and maybe we're changing people's views one way or other on the way, I don't know, but it's important that everyone feels that they can have a say. We all know that it's who you know that gets things done in this country. No argument. Problem is they get away with it. Corruption is no real penalty in this country. They maybe step down, lose their position, etc., but no loss of job, loss of pension, no jail time, no financial loss. They have no fear. In fact, they often move on to better positions in the private companies or the EU. Iceland had the right idea. Good morning, Greg. They make it rain once a week in Dubai. You had a man on a few years ago who said for 100 grand they can make the sun shine. Ever notice on a royal wedding it never rains? They then have cloud-making machines. Now need to do some research, Greg, instead of downplaying what people say. I'm not downplaying what people say at all. I've actually did an interview with someone as it relates to rain creation. What the person was saying earlier on is that planes are flying over Ireland for some nefarious reasons. If that's the case, come on, let me know. I'm not questioning it. Don't shoot people for asking questions. That's what's wrong with this world nowadays. What is happening with chemtrails? What's the plan? Who's behind it? What are they doing? What are they pumping out? Or is it just are we talking about, when we talk about chemtrails, are we actually just talking about the exhaust fumes and the fact that it blocks the sun? Or are we talking about climate engineering? Let me know what people are saying. 086 60 25,000.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook, and at highlandradio.com. The 9 till noon show is brought to you by Letterkenny Credit Union. Digital loans now available. Apply online or via our app today and get your loan transferred directly to your current account.
By choosing Donegal Creameries milk, you're supporting over 200 dairy farming families across Donegal in doing what they do best, producing delicious, fresh milk every day. For over 100 years, Donegal Creameries milk has been brought to you daily from our dairy at Crossroads, Killygordon, the longest established creamery in the region. Support local farms, local families and local jobs by choosing Donegal Creameries milk.
The CFC Interiors stock disposal sale ends Bank Holiday Monday. Due to overstock, an incredible £1.5 million worth of stock must go. Don't miss our highest ever discount sale on selected ranges across all departments. The stock disposal sale at CFC Interiors. Sale ends Bank Holiday Monday.
Roll call for relay! Yay!
Muncherley and Shaw. Roll Call for Relay. Roll Call for Relay is calling on all schools, Montessori's and creches from every corner of the Northwest who's up for doing a simple school challenge. Boys and girls, do you have any ideas for a challenge?
Go on the slide or do skipping. Climb 2 mountains in one day. A skydive.
To take part and have a bit of fun, simply email rollcallforrelay@gmail.com or check out our socials for more information.
Donaghy Brothers are ready. Are you ready for our biggest event of the year? Donaghy Brothers Limavady Spectacular grand opening is on Saturday 29th of April and it's going to be epic. Food demos by top chefs. There's live music and entertainment on the day, plus incredible prizes on the hour every hour. Gather your friends and family and head down to Donaghy Brothers Limavady on Saturday 29th of April for an unforgettable day of fun and excitement.
Business Matters in association with the ATU Donegal Faculty of Business. Are you a senior manager in the private sector looking to reinforce your leadership skills? ATU are offering a Level 9 Executive MBS in Leadership and Innovation based around action learning starting late April. Take the next step in your career and contact the Exec Ed Coordinator on 9186206 today or email donald.hannigan@atu.ie.
Okay, that means it's time for us to preview the Business Matters podcast from Highland Radio. It's available for you right now, available for you to listen at your leisure on our website, on Spotify and iTunes as well, and we'll talk about how you can listen to it on the radio a little later on. Its presenter, of course, is Kieran O'Donnell, and he's in studio with us now. Kieran, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Greg.
Oh, you wouldn't believe it, would you? Move that microphone a little bit. It's playing up on me. Can you just twiddle it? Just touch it a little bit? Touch the top of it? Hello? No? It just stopped working. We tested it, didn't we?
We did.
All right, stay where you are. We're going to swing this one over. Oh, I'm getting too old for this, Kieran. What about now?
Good morning, Greg.
Yay! Good morning.
We'll have to have a serious investigation on here. What's going on with these microphones?
You were here when I tested it.
I'm glad I didn't get the blame for this morning.
No, it's not your fault.
Thank you.
Were here.
I got a plenty touch the last time.
Come here. Good news for Donegal Restaurant here.
The Key West restaurant in Donegal town has been shortlisted for a national award by Yes Chef magazine's Mystery Shoppers, and the national awards will be announced next month, May. So Yes Chef is known as the magazine for lovers of good food and was established by Shane Smith in 2007.
And would you believe Key West Restaurant, beautiful, and we have Joe Daly on the show regularly, and I've never been in there. Would you believe that?
Yeah, I was on once.
But I hear amazing things about it.
And I suppose, look, the one thing I was keen to sort of include this week, Greg, was I suppose Joe, we spoke to Joe on a couple of occasions during the pandemic, and I suppose it was a really trying time. So it's great that has time is behind him now, and that we're reporting good news on her behalf.
Yeah, for sure. News of an action plan for Inishowen now.
Yeah, an action plan that aims to create a decarbonised and more sustainable Inishowen will be launched tomorrow evening at the Ballyliffin Lodge Hotel. The plan was drawn up by the Inishowen Sustainable Energy Community, also known as ISEC, and is being described as a game changer for the peninsula. The keynote speaker on the night will be Claire Irwin of Irwin Consulting, and she is the quantity surveyor on RTE's Room to Improve.
All right, good news for Tata Consultancy Services.
Yeah, Letterkenny-based Tata Consultancy Services, also known as TCS, has been awarded the Investors in Diversity Bronze Accreditation by the Irish Centre for Diversity. This award is among Ireland's premier diversity and inclusion accreditation marks and independently affirms TCS's commitment to supporting and putting in place effective D&I policies. So it's been operating in Ireland since 2001, and TCS services cover 28 global and local clients from its Dublin headquarters and global delivery centre here in Letterkenny.
Yeah, it's impressive. As is Glenveigh National Park. I was a late adopter to it. You know, I hadn't been out there for ever really, and then obviously I've made numerous visits in the last couple of years, maybe promoted and triggered by us not being able to do anything. But facilities there are improving all the while.
Yeah, a new parking area, Greg, with 60 extra spaces has been opened at Glenveigh National Park, and that brings the number of spaces to a total of 280. Parking, as you say, well, as we have discussed before, has become an issue in recent years out at Glenveigh, and I suppose this is a welcome development. And just as a side for that, you mentioned that you get out and about there. If you're not up for walking or running, Grassroots, a local company, they provide electric and hybrid bikes for hire, and they will be open for business over the bank holiday weekend.
Yeah, and also to a mention of the staff out there, because I think sometimes the people that make the experience are those that will work in there. And I always found the guys on the buses particularly friendly and engaging and accommodating, and that's as a local, so I'm sure the tourists really appreciate it.
I've had that experience as well, Greg.
So fair play to them, because as I say, they are really...
It gives you a feel-good experience, and it encourages people to come back, and I'm sure there's a lot of repeat business out there and a lot of repeat visitors.
Yeah, so, any facility or business is the sum of its people, and fair play to Grassroots too for what they're doing as well. And I see a few companies opening up, offering e-bike rental, hybrid bike rental, cycling rental. It's going to be a big business, I think, in our more popular
That's
areas.
been operating out there this last number of years.
But others elsewhere, Kieran.
Yeah, so look, that's good, and that's part of the Terman and Creven Centre as well, so good to see that developing as well, that part of the business.
Okay, a new website's been launched. What's this about?
Yeah, the launch of a new website featuring businesses and tourist attractions in Donegal will be hosted by Mulroy Drive on Wednesday next. That's May the 3rd in Lowe's of Cranford. Paddy Lowe was in touch with me to let businesses in the area know that there is still time for them to be included in a brochure that will promote tourism and visitor attractions as a sort of an extension of the website. So those looking to be part of that publication have a few weeks to get in there. They can contact Ryan at Innish Media, and his telephone number is 085 8888 531.
And this is like a one-stop shop, is it, Kieran, for tourists for that greater, wider area? Because people might find certain little spots in that catchment area a mention, but there's so much to be offered on both sides of the bridge and all around, presumably.
So they're extending that invitation for anybody that's from Letterkenny, the far side, the other side of Letterkenny, and that surrounding area, on down towards that Atlantic Drive we were talking about. If they want to be part of that experience and part of that route, feel free to contact them.
Brilliant stuff. Okay, right. That's a look through some of the news then. What's coming up on this week's podcast, Kieran?
Yeah, Greg, on this week's show, I talked to the owner of the Wheelhouse Cafe in Burton Port, John Riley. 14 people are employed at the Wheelhouse, and John is set to create 4 new jobs when his glamping site, which will accommodate 9 pods, opens in June. John moved from Scotland to Burton Port as a 10-year-old in 1976 and became a full-time fisherman at the age of 16. He began working for the late Kevin McHugh from Killybegs in 1993 and skippered the New Veronica and Atlantic Dawn fishing vessels. John has recently returned from his latest fishing trip off the coast of Oman in the Arabian Sea. And during our conversation, I asked John what his hopes are for his business.
I hope the business can enhance Burton Port. You know, some people will look at it and say that you're trying to make money, millions out of it. You're not trying to make millions, you're just trying to run a business and keep your head above water. And I hope that we can bring local people to the area. Like, let's not forget that if people come to stay with me or somewhere close by, they'll go down to the local bar for a drink, they'll go on the ferry, they'll go up to Dunlow and do a bit of shopping, they'll go to the petrol station. So everybody's going to make a turn out of it. And I think if everybody can work together, all the businesses, and I believe that there's a local guy now, he informed me that he's building a new vessel now to do sea safaris. So, you know, if I work with him and he works with us and everybody, you know, I think I said it 4 years ago, I said 5 years' time, Port will boom. I do think in 2 years' time it will be booming.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite parts of the world, that whole Burton Port, and then by extension, I suppose, Ironmoor, though they're two separate entities, don't get me wrong, but you know, when you're from outside the area, you kind of tie them in. What a pivot too, from being the skipper of the New Veronica and Atlantic Dawn and still involved in that side of the business, but then to be opening up a coffee shop and such a great employer too in that area. It's a cracking story, which I'm setting up for you to say. Really, that's all covered in the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, very much. As you say, John is a very laid-back character, very personable fella, and he hasn't got a spare minute. So I was trying to ask him what does he do to sort of unwind, but obviously between fishing and getting the Wheelhouse up and running, and he only started the glamping site at the start of January. It's going to be finished, all things going well, for the bank holiday Monday or bank holiday weekend in June. That work's been carried out by a man called John Ham, a local man getting local employment. Dennis Bonner, a local architect, did the plans. 14 people employed in the wheelhouse, 4 more at least. So if you take, and himself, that's the guts of almost 20 jobs in a small area like Burton Port, which is a great catalyst for maybe new things to happen. One line he did say to me during a conversation, Greg, he said, when the fishing died, the village died. And I was thinking about it when I came back up the road. I suppose if tourism is coming alive again, that's going to breathe new life into the town as well. So maybe the town will come and the village will come alive as a result of tourism coming alive in the area.
All right, the full interview with John Riley is available to download now at highlandradio.com or on Spotify or iTunes. And the show's broadcast on air as well, Kieran, of course.
Yeah, after the 6 o'clock news on Sunday evening.
This coming Sunday. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you...
Yeah, just drop me an email, please. businessmatters@highlandradio.com.
OK, Kieran, thank you very much indeed. Already looking forward to having you in next Wednesday. Kieran O'Donnell there. That podcast live right now on our website, highlandradio.com.
The 9 till noon show with Letterkenny Credit Union, now offering mortgages from €40,000 to €600,000 with no hidden fees or transaction charges. Letterkenny Credit Union, 9102127.
Hi, Bree Jean here from McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles, Buncrana. It's the last few days of our massive marquee tile sale. Huge discounts on all wall and floor tiles and much more. Grab yourself a bargain at McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles, Buncrana. Massive marquee sale now on.
Tagan an ailse patóga hartar 2,600 duine in Éirden gach bliain. Déanann an scaig hastáil patóga cion féin leis an risca a leidú. Má tá tú idir seasca agus seasca a ní bliain díis, is féidir leat clarú an nuamh le haig fearas scaig hastála. Nuair a bheith an tástáil déanta a go sa bhaile, seol cúingi le séirfost. Déanam í tástáil ar an sampla leis na levéal fola a bheas. Be méidig dagháil leat más gádas éon rodile a dhéanamh. Chláirigh an nuamh ar hse.ie/bowlscreen ó aimimeacht na seirbhíse sláinte.
Wheezing or sneezing? When you're feeling under the weather, your local Brennan's Pharmacy can help. Rest, fluids and simple pain relief are the most effective remedies for a common cold. But if you find that you're coughing so hard that your chest hurts, or if it's disrupting your sleep, just ask our pharmacist to recommend the best solution for a speedy recovery. For all your pharmacy needs and advice you can trust, we're here for you at Brennan's Pharmacy, Buncrana, Clonmany and Creeslaw.
Fantastic value at Homeland Letterkenny Garden Centre this Saturday 29th with our Garden Super Saturday. Buy one, get one free in all hedging. Buy 2 trees for €65. Medium veggie pod only €219 and get 10 packets of seeds. Homeland Lawn Feed Weed and Moss Killer. Buy 2 bags for only €50. Shop in store at Homeland Letterkenny with expert advice from our experienced team. Offers mentioned available this weekend only.
Highland Radio weather updates with Ireland West Airport. Fancy a European city break this summer? Discover the beautiful cities of Barcelona, Cologne and Milan with Ryanair. 6 flights a week for summer 2023. Ireland West Airport. Don't just take off, take it easy.
So mostly cloudy day with patchy light rain or showers. Highest temperatures of 10 to 13 degrees in light southeasterly breezes. We're joined now on the programme by Michael, who's very concerned about a family member, I think. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining me, Michael.
Good morning, Craig. How are you?
I'm all right. What situation are you going through? Is this it is a family member, is it?
Yeah, it's my mother, Craig. She's 2 weeks post-surgery for she had lung cancer and she's went to Dublin. She's had initially she had part of her lung removed and then she's had the rest of her lung removed. And she's been in poor sort of health last while anyway. And last week she went to Letterkenny and she was in A&E with my father for 12 hours and not seen. And then she ended up having to sign herself out. She's very weak. She's doing a lot of sleeping. So you can imagine what that put her through. And then just today, she's up taken by ambulance again, and she's currently still sitting in an ambulance outside of Letterkenny Hospital, waiting to get admitted to the hospital. And I don't want the same thing what happened to her last week to happen again, where she's 12, 14 hours down the road, and maybe nothing happened, because she's in a lot of pain now this morning. And hopefully, I don't know, maybe she might be able to get seen.
No, it's very, 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 very tough on her, but it's equally tough on you because you're helpless and it's your mother and you want nothing but good for her. How long has she been in the ambulance now, as far as we're aware, Michael?
Well, she went in about 8 o'clock this morning, but she's, the ambulance staff have been very good and all the rest, and, the health staff in general are very good, but their hands are tied. My sister's been on to, I suppose, the HSE. She's been looking up guidelines, and apparently from the 2nd of March, anybody with that's a cancer patient should be able to be admitted to the oncology department, or at least see a nurse associated with the oncology department. And Letterkenny are failing to adhere to this at the minute. And, hence why my mother's still sitting out in an ambulance.
Yeah, so she doesn't need really to be sitting in ED and to be triaged. The hope is that she'd get straight into the oncology ward.
Policy they apparently come out with apparently bypasses any sort of case, and having to sit in ED and put them through what they went through last Tuesday. 12 hours is obviously too long for anybody if you're having full of your health.
Right, okay. Well, Michael, I'm terribly sorry for what she's going through. We'll make our inquiries. Hopefully she gets in and gets cared for as soon as possible, for her primarily, of course, but for you and the rest of the family who I'm sure are very distressed by all of this. I wish we were talking under different circumstances, but thanks for your time this morning.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, God bless you and best wishes to your mother. Right, okay. Lots of people in and around Donegal town. It's going to be a huge catchment area. Are clearly going to be disappointed with the news that the cinema in Donegal town, the project is finished effectively, unless Lidl decide to build a cinema, which I'm sure they're not. Regular listeners to this show will know that we were platforming people and their concerns and pressuring Donegal County Council to make certain changes that would allow this to progress, but seemingly now it's all in vain. Pádraig Kennedy's the mayor of Donegal town. Pádraig, disappointing to learn that this cinema is not going in on this site now. It's sad news.
Good morning, Greg, and your listeners. Yeah, one of sadness and frustration again. The people at Donegal seem to be let down. I mean, we've been trying to get in touch with the developer, but no reply back. But the word is that Lidl have it bought.
Well, I can tell you that Lidl have bought that site.
Oh, they've confirmed it.
Well, I know it's been, but Lidl own that site now, so it's not that there's concerns about it, but it is the case.
That it's another letdown for the people of Donegal again, and the promise for the people and the kids and our visitors and the people in the surrounding areas, that here we are, and the people of Donegal come together in support of the developer to get it over the line and give something to the community that we should have, and no more than an like centre. We're sorely regret not having one of them in the county or in our area, and just for the people and the kids, these services that need to be there for the people. And like Donegal is kind of the jewel of the Wild Atlantic Way, and Donegal town is kind of the heart that to go through to go to these places, and with some great hotels and restaurants and bars, and for families and people visiting, it's. These amenities need to be there.
There's great stuff there, but look, at the end of the day, not everyone likes to drink. Not everyone wants to sit in a pub.
No,
if you're holidaying in the Donegal town area, you can drop the young ones, age appropriate, of course, off to a cinema that occupies them for 3 or 4 hours, and everything's not drink focused. But these hopes are dashed. And look, at the end of the day, too, people's circumstances change. So we don't know the reasons behind this. I'm sure the plans were very well intentioned, but as I say, people's lives and circumstances and what have you change, and there's a massive increase in building costs, and whatever the reasons might be, we don't know. But every individual has the right to change their plans if they so wish, or any company. Sorry. So what do we do next then? So in terms of increasing these types of facilities for the area? Can we rely on the private sector? Does the state, the council need to get involved?
Know. I mean, there last week the primary care centre opened up, and we're so welcome to the development of that. And there's 5 housing developments in Donegal town taking place at the minute. So the council and the planners and all put these developers through hoops. Now, part of the plan or whatever, the development should be: is there facilities for the families? Like leisure and entertainment and sports. We have been neglected again in Donegal town. We have no cinema, we have no swimming pool. We rely on the goodwill of the hotels. But when they get busy in the summer, they need their...
So do you think then for planning permissions, Parg, there should be some sort of a levy or condition that maybe, if it's obviously it would have to be a really significant development, that the provision of something like a cinema or a swimming pool should form part of the planning?
Absolutely, or that they have to contribute. Or do we call on the Minister of Health and the Minister of Sport and the Minister of Entertainment to provide these? Because, if you have people using these facilities, they're putting less a demand on the health system. And poor Michael and his mother there, the demand. If people have these facilities, it's good for the mind, good for the body, and good for, everything. And, we have to look at that. And I know swimming pools are going to say they don't pay, but we have such modern technology with wind and solar and all that.
There's a massive campaign. There's a massive campaign to get the swimming pool reopened in Buncrana. The council are involved in that, right? We covered for years to get a swimming pool in the Finn Valley area. Ballyshannon, obviously they had to campaign to get the provision of services there. There's no reason why Donegal town should not get the same type of attention as other areas of the county do. We shouldn't have to, or people of the area shouldn't have to beg cap in hand. Do you know what I mean? These things should be top of local electoral area meetings, saying what about some services for this, which is, as I say, it is Donegal town, but it's got a huge catchment area that goes out as far as Kilcar and up as far as Ballybofey and out as far as Pettico and further south. Yeah.
And seeing too, Greg, you covered it too about the library, the planned development of the library, and that was going to be a digital hub as well, tied in with the library, and there's no sign of it neither. There was great promises of all these things, like we have politicians in the area, and we have a sitting TD not far away from the town, and why are we not getting it? And once again, we're probably going to have to rely on the people to come together and see. I know back the plan and the intention was good, and as you say, conditions changed. COVID came. Maybe the idea of a 5-screen cinema is not. Maybe it's a 3-screen cinema. Maybe it's to do with outdoor leisure as well as swimming pool. Maybe you have to tie all together and make a complex with all of that.
Mark, I'll tell you what we have to do. We have to go now because it's the end of the programme, but we'll definitely maybe tease it out with a panel in the future as to how these types of facilities can be developed in the town down the line. But for now, thank you very much for your time, Parg. I'm sorry to cut you short. I really am.
Oh, no bother.
Parg Kennedy, Mayor of Donegal Town there. See you tomorrow at 9.
The 9 till noon show is brought to you by